Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Monday, October the 26th, 2020. On today's show, I break down South Carolina's 52-24 loss, guys. I'll try to make sense of just what happened, what went wrong in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. I'll give you guys my full takeaways, my full breakdown, also my biggest takeaway from Saturday, and I'll hand out some game balls as well. As again, South Carolina now finds itself scratching its head heading into the bye week and drops a big game on the road in Baton Rouge to fall to 2-3 on the season. I'll break down that game in its entirety. Also, your listener questions and voicemails. And we have a fantastic interview. Former Gamecocks wide receiver Willis Ham joins the show. We have a great conversation. Willis played under Lou Holtz, was during the 1-21 streak, also the back-to-back Outback Bowl team. So we'll talk about all that and more, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, superior moving service. They bring care and attention other companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining trucks and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. So, guys, real quick, they're not a trucking company, by the way. They are a moving services company. They're also employee-owned co-op. Their movers are paid twice the industry average, and everyone on the crew is just as invested in the success of the project as you are. They have dedicated professional crew members as well. Guys, service is what really separates Upstate Movers Group from the rest. They also offer black glove service. Speaking of service, they offer end-to-end packing services, custom crating, and packaging for special items and cleaning services as well. By the way, they were founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni. So obviously that's a big deal. Gamecocks helping Gamecocks, USC alumni, a USC-owned business. They also offer 20 years of project management and moving experience, and they can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies simply do not have the skills for. Guys, if you want to go check them out, they're in the Upstate. They're at upstatemoversgroup.com. They're also on social media at Upstate Movers Group. Again, service is what separates. Service is what makes the difference. And Upstate Movers Group is no different than that. I've had the pleasure of meeting with these guys, speaking to them, and I can tell you firsthand, if you have any moving needs, you are making a mistake if you do not go with Upstate Movers Group. Also, guys, like I said, it's a great kicker. Founded by University of South Carolina alumni, Gamecocks helping Gamecocks. You want to support a local Gamecock-owned business. Upstate Movers Group is the way to go for your moving needs. Again, that's Upstate Movers Group, upstatemoversgroup.com, and also check them out at Upstate Movers Group. The show is also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Guys, MyBookie, between the NFL, college ball, and MLB playoffs, there's no shortage of games to watch, and with thousands of lines available at your favorite sports and events, you can turn your game day into payday with MyBookie. Guys, if you're the type of guy who likes to back the big favorites, consider putting a couple in a parlay. We all love a good parlay, right? Put them in a parlay for a much bigger payout. Not only do parlays make meaningless games exciting, but more importantly, they give you a chance to turn ordinary bets into a real moneymaker. And guys, don't forget the underdogs like South Carolina, who's probably going to be an underdog in almost every game they play for the rest of the season. They have a ton of value. The thing about the NFL is that underdogs are never really dogs on Sunday. Every team truly has a chance to win, and you do too. Game spreads, championship futures, and player prop bets. It's never too late to get on the action and start turning your sports knowledge into actual cash in your wallet. Guys, you can sign up at MyBookie, and when you do, over at mybookie.ag, use the promo code Gamecocks, and that's promo code Gamecocks at mybookie.ag to claim a deposit match dollar for dollar all the way to $1,000. So again, you go to mybookie.ag, you put in promo code Gamecocks. They are going to match your deposit up to $1,000 in a free play. So what does that mean? You get free money to play with. You lose the money, guess what? It doesn't hit your account. You win. You actually win the money. It's a win-win scenario. You cannot lose in that situation. It's a bonus designed to give you a little help and a head start on your winning season. Again, that's mybookie.ag, promo code Gamecocks, mybookie.ag, promo code Gamecocks, for you to claim your bonus when you make your deposit. They've got everything, guys. Stacked UFC cards, presidential prop bets. We all know the election's coming up. All the major sports and more. Sign up today to begin your winning season exclusively at MyBookie. Let's get it. guys? I'm Chris Phillips, host of the Spurs Up Show, as always. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Got a packed show, obviously, as I talk about South Carolina's 52-24 loss. A lot to dive into, a lot to break down as the Gamecocks fall to 2-3. And now we have 2 weeks left to scratch your head and wonder just what went wrong and what improvements does South Carolina need to make as they go into the second half of the season. Guys, first things first, appreciate you all tuning in here on a Monday. If I do sound a little lethargic, I do apologize. Spent all day Sunday. As you guys know, I went to Baton Rouge, spent all day Sunday on the road, about 10 hours or so it took to get home. Had a fantastic time, by the way, and I want to get into that in just a second, but spent all day on the road Sunday, so it is 12:23 a.m. right now on Sunday night, and I am recording this show for Monday, obviously. So, again, it is very late. I'm a little tired, but, hey, we got to get it done. It's what we signed up for. So, guys, I was just saying, if I sound a little scatterbrained or a little tired or a little lethargic, whatever, that is the reason why. But I am fired up. I am fired up to talk to you guys. Obviously, a lot to get into and a lot to unpack. But, again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend, obviously, outside of the game, whether it be watching the World Series or NFL football, or if you just took in the nice weather, whatever you did. I don't know. Whatever it was, maybe you took a nice long walk to get away from everything and decompress. I hope you guys all had a fantastic weekend. I do appreciate you all tuning in here on a Monday, whether you're on the way to work, on the way home from work, whether you're at the office, whatever, maybe you're off today, whatever it is. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to consume the content, to share the content, to show some love. I really, really do appreciate it, and I do not take it for granted. Before we get into everything, let's go ahead and dive into these housekeeping items really quickly. And just one thing, guys, if you haven't done so, as always, take 5 seconds out of your day, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever platform you're listening on. Rate the show. Leave 5 stars. Leave your thoughts, your feedback, things you like, things you don't like, you want to hear more of, less of, whatever it may be. Please take the time out of your day. Take 5 seconds. Leave a review. Leave 5 stars. Leave your thoughts, feedback. Truly do appreciate you guys that have already done so. Also, if you're listening and you're not subscribed, make sure you hammer the subscribe button. You're going to get the daily notifications when the podcast drops. You want to make sure you're subscribed. Also, be sure you're following on social media. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, we are creeping closer and closer and closer to 1,000 subs. We're going to hit it soon. Would appreciate if you're tuned in right now and you're not subscribed to YouTube. Again, just take 5 seconds out of your day. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Would truly appreciate it. So, again, rate and subscribe if you haven't. If you've already done so, I truly do appreciate it, guys. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for the love, support, everything else, which leads me into this LSU game because I want to start with the positives, and that is everything that happened outside of the game. Again, South Carolina losing 52-24 on Saturday night, but I want to talk a little bit about the weekend because obviously I was there, went down on Thursday, kind of surprised you guys, I guess, a little bit. I thought it was a little bit of a surprise. I mean, again, going down to Baton Rouge, going to the game, I didn't even know I was going to be doing it until the week of. Break the news on Thursday, we're heading down. So we head down to Baton Rouge Thursday, got to go to New Orleans in the French Quarter on Friday and check out a little bit of downtown Baton Rouge on Friday night. Obviously, then Saturday, spent all day Saturday in Baton Rouge, went to the game, and then Sunday drove back basically the entire day. So it was a blast. Got to see family. My sister lives down there. Got to stay with her, spend time with the family. So it really was a win-win as far as a weekend is concerned outside of the actual football game. The first thing I do want to say, just talking about the experience, Baton Rouge, I want to give a major kudos to the people of LSU, to the people of Baton Rouge, the people of the great state of Louisiana, New Orleans, everything. I had an absolute blast. I certainly would not change going because I saw some of the comments of, oh, that sure was a long road trip to go take the loss or you spent the money, but whatever. Again, got to go down there and see family, seeing a new place. I'd never even been to the state of Louisiana before. New Orleans was awesome. The French Quarter was awesome. Bourbon Street was awesome. That entire experience on Friday, had a blast, had an absolute blast. Got to eat some actual Cajun food, got some Creole, ate some gumbo. It was awesome. The food was incredible. It was unbelievable. A little bit spicy, but really, really, really good. And then Saturday, I'll tell you guys, man, as fun as Baton Rouge was, I'd love to see it on an actual game day because, again, it was obviously very dead. Like if you've been in Columbia for a South Carolina game this year, very similar to that where it's just, COVID going on. There's no on-campus tailgating. And LSU is very much an on-campus, setting. I mean, it's not like Columbia where there's other parking lots where it's like not controlled by the school. Like 95% of their parking lots and their lots in general are on campus property. So obviously there was no tailgating. There really weren't any tailgates, but getting to experience a new campus. The layout's beautiful. The campus is fantastic. I'll be honest, and I hate to say this, and you guys are going to hate to hear me say this. LSU honestly just reminded me of a flat Clemson. Like, that's really what it seemed like. It was a flat Clemson. Obviously, the terrain is a lot different out there. It's very, very, very flat. But Tiger Stadium, Death Valley is incredible. That is an awesome venue, absolutely massive. Got to see Alex Box Stadium, the baseball facility, which is incredible and awesome in its own right. Again, hung out with the LSU fans were actually really, really, really cool in pregame. Now, in game, there were a couple of college dudes that were talking shit or whatever, and it is what it is. I think they were drunk, whatever. And they were kicking South Carolina's tail, and it kind of just comes with the territory, whatever. But I will say, for the most part, and shout out to these guys, Fat Boys Pizza, right next to Tiger Stadium. Fat Boys Pizza, who actually found out, we might be getting him as a guest on the show soon, but if you remember this name, Tommy Corciani played basketball at South Carolina. His uncle is one of the guys that runs the place. We ended up talking with the guy, ended up talking to him. His uncle is one of the guys that runs Fat Boys Pizza right next to Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. Again, if you've never been, you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's literally right next to the stadium. The pizza was incredible, and then having that connection was super random, super wild, and the LSU people, and they were awesome. So, again, the positive side of things from the weekend, the overall just experience was amazing. The venue was amazing. Baton Rouge was awesome. New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, like I said, the food, everything was great about the trip. Everything really was, and I said this on social media, kudos to LSU for doing a fantastic job as far as hosting the game, hosting the event. Again, the fans were really, really cool. I really didn't run into any bad fans per se. It was really, really cool people. Had a lot of good conversations with some LSU people. Saw a lot of Gamecocks, by the way. I thought Gamecock fans really showed up for this game. Saw a lot of Gamecock fans, especially downtown. We went to Chimes and had a beer, had a couple beers, and I saw some fans down there. Got to interact with some fans, and it was really cool. I mean, it was an awesome experience. It was awesome to go on the road, see the campus, see a new stadium, cross that one off the list, if you will, and go take that and experience that. And then you got to the game. Let's talk about it. South Carolina loses 52-24. Again, I picked South Carolina to win this football game 28-23 on Friday, which I appreciate you guys showing love to the video in front of the stadium. I thought you guys would really, really like that. And I had a blast recording that, by the way, because, most of them I do in the studio. And to be able to do that in front of the stadium was really, really cool, and obviously gave it some flair and stuff like that. But Carolina falls to LSU 52-24 in a football game where you are truly dominated. I mean, absolutely dominated in every facet of the football game. I'm not even sure I know really where to start here when it comes to this game, because there's so many things you could talk about. There's so many things fans want to talk about and break down, from the run defense, the pass defense, Colin Hill, special teams, the coaching, obviously. There's so much to unpack here. There's so much to talk about. I'll say this first things first, though. And I kind of mentioned this on social media, but I want to expand on it in the sense that, did I maybe get caught up a little bit in I guess even just wanting to believe the hype, quote unquote, because hype is a very strong word. I mean, you'd won back-to-back games. You'd beaten Vanderbilt, which is a wash, and an Auburn team that was not the 15th best team in the country and was questionable at best. But you still had some momentum. You still had a lot of positive momentum going into this game. And you looked at the LSU side of things, all the turmoil they were dealing with off the field. Miles Brennan being out for the game, them starting a true freshman. Everything that was going on with LSU, their overall record, the look of their team this year. And you really liked your chances as far as looking at South Carolina and saying they've got all the momentum. And I talked about it. I thought with a running game, and I thought the defense, I know Auburn had its struggles, but starting a true freshman quarterback for LSU, I really thought South Carolina was going to be able to have success defensively. But again, back to my point, I really saw football reasons why South Carolina was going to win this football game. But even I can admit I got caught up a little bit in the overall hype and almost just more so wanting to see South Carolina get the W. Now, I said before the game, and I told my brother this, I thought the game was going to go one of two ways. Either South Carolina was going to win the football game or they were going to get blown out. I did not think it would be a close South Carolina loss. For whatever reason, I had that feeling. We obviously see what happened. Because I loved the analogy I saw on Twitter last week. It was either South Carolina is going to get a wounded, distracted, distraught LSU team, or they are walking into a legitimate hornet's nest and they are about to get ambushed. Again, we saw what happened on the field. But I think that's what leads, because I think all Gamecock fans, I said this on social media, all Gamecock fans, we kind of knew in the back of our mind, because it was a mixed bag. I mean, there were a fair amount of people that were picking South Carolina to win this football game, which is awesome. Again, I talked about it for the Auburn game, and I said it for the LSU game and a bit as well. It feels nice to have people picking your team to win a game of this magnitude. It feels really good to look at South Carolina and say they're going to get the job done. Like, that is a really, really good feeling. But I think we all knew in the back of our minds, or kind of had that sick feeling in the back of our minds, if you will, of, dang, I just don't know. Like, is South Carolina ready to go on the road to Baton Rouge at night, a team, and beat an LSU team they haven't beaten since 1994? And again, it's still LSU. That was the thing that scared me going in the game. It's still LSU. They have tons of talent. There's no question. So the thing with the loss Saturday night, I'm not surprised South Carolina lost the game. Again, I picked the Gamecocks to win, but I'm certainly not surprised South Carolina lost. And I totally can stomach a loss to LSU. I mean, if South Carolina would have lost by a field goal or a touchdown, hard-fought game, whatever. I mean, you lost to LSU on the road. It's a tough game. It's a tough environment. I will say the in-stadium environment was, it's intense watching the game because you care so much. But in the grand scheme, if you're able to take a step back, and now I am because I'm not in the stadium, I mean, it's obviously very dead. I haven't been in Williams-Brice Stadium, and I'm hoping to get in there for the Texas A&M game. But it's very dead, obviously. I mean, it's nothing like a real game, which I was actually really glad it wasn't, because that would have been miserable being in there for that game if it was a packed stadium. But either way, nobody was surprised South Carolina lost LSU, right? Nobody was. But to watch South Carolina lose the way they lost, I mean, it was pure domination from the opening snap, from the very opening snap. I'm going to try to start with some positives real quick. I want to start with some positives, and I don't want to ruin game balls later, but offensively, Kevin Harris continues to be that dude. Defensively, Israel McQuamu with the nice pick was a momentum-changing type of play in the moment. Ernest Jones with 19 tackles, which is insane. That's an insane amount of tackles. You saw some, I thought Tonka Hemingway made some really nice plays. I thought Jordan Birch made some nice plays in space. I'm trying to think because I'm probably, I thought Shiloh Sanders, he continues to lay the wood. He continues to fly around the football. I thought J.C. Horn had a very J.C. Horn game. Key Mullins obviously emerging for you offensively, 2 catches for 100 yards. I mean, he had some really, really big catches. I don't know what happened as far as coverage busts or whatever, but maybe he emerged a guy that could be a weapon and help out this offense. So you had some decent individual performances, but I feel like I'm putting lipstick on a pig right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. This was abysmal. This was a complete shit show. This was embarrassing. And I don't understand, again, because I said this after the Auburn game, that I still didn't believe Muschamp was the answer long-term. And we said right after, hey, this is just like last year. After you beat Georgia, you got 6 games remaining. Everything lined up. It was eerily similar. The similarities between that win over Georgia and the win over Auburn this year as far as the scenario you were currently in. And I really didn't feel like a loss in Baton Rouge to LSU was going to undo all of the good you did against Auburn. Like, I really did not think that was possible. But when you lose the way South Carolina did, again, get thoroughly waxed, I mean embarrassed, and you let a true freshman quarterback dice you up, 17 for 21, 265, 2 TDs. Did have the one pick. LSU rushing for 276 yards against your defensive-minded head coach in year 5. When you lose the way South Carolina lost, and then obviously the ineptitudes offensively, which we're going to get to in a little bit, but when you lose the way you lost, you damn near undid all the good favor you built up from the Auburn game. Because now you're going into the bye week. Again, more questions than answers. You have more questions than answers yet again. You're scratching your head saying, well, who are we? What team are we? You know, defensively, again, it's baffling. And I know everybody's first instinct, and I agree, the secondary did not play great. The secondary didn't play great. And the first instinct's to go after the secondary. But, guys, really the reason TJ Finley looked so good and played so well, the reason he was able to do what he did, I just read it off. LSU, 54 carries for 276 yards, 5.1 per carry. I mean, from the opening drive, I was in the end zone that LSU scored their first touchdown. I was on that side of the field. I mean, just methodically moving the ball. TJ Finley didn't have to do a whole lot. You know, when you go back and I saw the chart, I wish I had it pulled up right now, but I saw the chart on Twitter. I don't think he even completed a pass over 20 yards. But I think he was 13 for 13 or some stat like that on passes in the middle of the field. 15 or less yards or something crazy like that. So, like, this South Carolina defense did not force Finley to make a bunch of tough throws. And, you know, obviously my key was, you know, bring the heat, get pressure on the young kid. And I said lock up on the outside, bring your corners up, bump them, bracket the receivers, whatever. Make TJ Finley make tough throws, make him squeeze the ball in coverage. But, hell, when they were running the ball, they were running it the way that they were running it. You're just going to make it so easy on a guy like TJ Finley. Obviously, we know the issues in the secondary. Guys have to get better and improve. Because a lot of those completions, a lot of those yards, those were just simply one-on-one matchups that LSU's players, they won the matchup. I mean, I hate to say this because, again, I do feel like South Carolina has good football players in its roster. But I feel like Saturday night, you really just saw two different types of athletes on the field. And again, I hate to, I'm not trying to say that as a slight or a knock on our guys. I think I'm more so tipping my cap to LSU. Like, they are good. That's what I told you guys last week is like, I hated, I couldn't wrap my head around people saying, oh, LSU sucks. LSU sucks. No, LSU does not suck. Have they been playing bad football to start the 2020 season? For sure, no doubt. But there is talent all over that LSU roster. There's 5-star talent all over that LSU roster. Please do not get it twisted. But how will Muschamp in year 5 and his old buddy T-Rob continue to make true freshmen / debut quarterbacks, however you want to label them, how they continue to make these guys look like All-Americans, Heisman candidates in their first outings is baffling. And I saw it all day on social media all day on social media on Saturday, and I actually made light of it. I was like, wow, you can see the hurt that South Carolina has caused this fan base when you're seeing all these fans commenting about, you know, we're going to make this guy like the next Heisman candidate. And I took it as a joke. Like, I was playing it off. And sure enough, what do you know? The fans were right. How do you – I just don't know what the defensive game plan was. And again, I feel like you have talented players up front. Like, you should be much better against the run than you were. 276 yards. Again, I know the secondary had its issues. The secondary's had issues all season long. Call it for what it is. But the running game now, and Muschamp said it post-game, 3 weeks in a row has been a problem. Hell, if Auburn wasn't stupid and didn't stop running the football, stayed stingy in the run, actually gave it to Tank Bigsby when they should have. I mean, hell, we could argue Auburn probably beat South Carolina. We could argue that. 276 yards on the ground for LSU. That's what opened up all the passing lanes. That's what made life easy for TJ Finley. He was getting the ball out very quickly. It was a bunch of slants. It was a bunch of quick passes. I mean, he didn't have to make a bunch of tough throws. You know, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record because I've said this over and over and over before. But again, year five under Will Muschamp. LSU's extremely talented. I want to give LSU a ton of credit. I do. Terrence Marshall's a legit ball player. They've obviously got some really good backs that did not do much the first couple of weeks that kicked our asses. There ain't no other way to put it. But year 5, you're getting a 50-burger hung on you. A 50, and I know they weren't all on the defense. I understand. But you're still getting a 50-burger hung on you and giving up what? Over 500 yards of total offense. And just looking flat out inept. I mean, LSU could have scored 60 if they wanted. What's the disconnect defensively? What is the disconnect? Like, you have good players. I think you have talented football players. What is the disconnect there? What's going to be the solution for South Carolina stopping the run more effectively? Hell, Ernest Jones had 19 tackles, and you still got gouged. You got gashed. You got gashed in the running game. 541 total yards. And again, I'm being tougher on the run game than I am the simple fact we could spend the whole show talking about this. You made a true freshman quarterback in his first start look like a Heisman contender. And I start with the running game because that's where I think it really all stems from. If you were able to hold your own in the run game, if you cut LSU's rushing yards in half, you're making life a lot harder, obviously, on TJ Finley. I mean, you just flat out are. But back to that, too. South Carolina, unable to get pressure on the kid. Guy had all day to throw. And again, I know he was getting the ball out quick. I get it. He was getting the ball out quick. But I don't know. I don't know. I was shocked at the lack of blitzing. And Ed Orgeron commented on this. Hell, everybody commented on this. Ed Orgeron saying he was surprised that South Carolina did not bring pressure out of a 4-man front. Hey, Ed, so are we. So were we. It was baffling to see, honestly. I talked a couple weeks ago to Eric Kimmery on the Fade In podcast. One of the things he brought up, and it just keeps ringing in my head, is he wanted to see South Carolina be more aggressive in the early downs. Was South Carolina aggressive at all defensively? At any point, was South Carolina aggressive defensively? Like, the weird thing about this game, by the way, again, LSU, by the way, 8 for 10 on third downs. That's also what happens when you can run the football. Because how many third and longs did LSU have? I mean, seriously. How many third and longs they have? Not many. But LSU beat South Carolina at its own game. That's how I really feel about this game. LSU beat South Carolina at its own game. It established the run. It held the football for 37 minutes. South Carolina just 22 minutes time of possession. It beat South Carolina in its own game in that regard. LSU with these long, drawn-out drives. And then South Carolina, get that first quick touchdown, which that was great. Certainly you're not going to complain about a score. But it's like, I don't think the Gamecocks are built to score fast. It's like, dang, you put the defense right back out there, you got no chance. You got no chance. They're gassed. So LSU beat South Carolina at their own game in that regard. I just thought that was really, really interesting. But again, what is the disconnect as far as making first-time quarterbacks, freshman quarterbacks, whatever, look like Heisman contenders? How How does that happen? What was one of my key matchups going in the game? Will Muschamp against TJ Finley. Boy, who won that matchup? My God. I mean, a fifth-year head coach, defensive-minded head coach. And I'm about to get into the offense because the offense didn't play well, no question. We all know that. But you sure as shit don't have a chance to win when you give up 52. I mean, 276 yards on the ground. You just have no chance. And again, Finley, 17 for 21. Yes, he had the one pick where Izzy timed it up beautifully. That was a great read by him, great interception by Israel McQuamu. But God, it felt like most of TJ Finley's passes weren't very much contested. LSU wised up. I'm sure you noticed that. LSU wised up. And I expect every other offense South Carolina plays to follow suit. They're not going to go at J.C. Horn. They're not. I will say on a positive, again, I do want to give Jamie Robinson a big shout out. I thought he played really, really well. I saw him on Terrence Marshall a lot, and he held his own. I will say that. He held his own. But outside of J.C., there's just still holes in the secondary. There's holes in that secondary. Wasn't a lot of contested passes. Wasn't a lot of 50-50 balls. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't a lot of times. There were way too many LSU wide receivers running wide open. How does it happen? How does that happen? And again, offenses across the SEC, I'm sure, are taking note. Every team you play for the rest of the season, they'd be a damn fool to challenge J.C. Horn again. Why would they? There's so many other options, so many other matchups they're going to have the advantage in. Especially if they can run the football with success, which it looks like right now, South Carolina can't stop anybody in the running game. So, I mean, year 5, dude. Year 5 of Muschamp. Defensive-minded. I said before the season, I hate to just keep harping on it and sound like a broken record, but I said before the season it'd be a bigger indictment on Will Muschamp as a head coach if the defense was average in year 5, average to below average, not the offense. You didn't expect the offense to be great during a Will Muschamp coach team, and the offense has exceeded expectations. Obviously didn't play well Saturday night, about to talk about it, but damn, the defense, man, in year 5. If you'd have told me when he got hired or even year 1 or year 2 that in year 5 you'd be getting 50 put up on you, I'd probably say, well, he's probably not going to be the head coach much longer, if at all longer. It's baffling. Like, it's just baffling. And it was just an embarrassing effort defensively. Embarrassing. Again, 8 for 10 on third down. They were 1 for 1 on fourth. 541 total yards. 265 through the air to a true freshman. 276 on the ground. And then we move into the offensive side of things. Because I know everyone's solution to the entire problem for this football team, and it's the easiest place to go at, is bench Colin Hill. Put in Ryan Helinski, put in Luke Doty. Now, I want to lead this off by saying Colin Hill did not play a great game Saturday night. There's no question. He did not. It's interesting. I almost caught myself because what's weird is you look at his stats, and he had a very Colin Hill, like, this game was very much on par with every other game he's played for South Carolina this season. 12 for 22, 234 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. I mean, that's Colin Hill to a T. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what he's been doing all season for South Carolina. Again, I have very much so praised Colin Hill. I've said that he's a field general. He has not thrown South Carolina out of football games. Obviously, He had his first very costly mistake on the pick six, which falls on both him and Jalen Brooks. But a lot of fans now clamoring for a quarterback change. Put in Ryan Helinski, put in Luke Doty. I hate to break it to you guys, man. I don't think there's a better option on the roster. I hate to say that personally because, listen, I've vouched for Colin Hill all season, and I'm certainly not switching my position now. But we can all call a spade a spade. Like, we can see Colin Hill for what he is. You know, he's going to win you some games for sure. He's going to win you some games. But he's nothing special. He's very average. He's a very average quarterback. He does nothing flashy. Yeah. So he's probably not the quarterback that's going to go on the road to Baton Rouge and win a big game like this. I mean, obviously his lack of mobility continues to be a major, major issue for this football team. And I'll be honest with you guys, there were times Saturday night where I was like, man, like I'd love to see Luke Doty's mobility back there. I just love to see somebody who can scoot a little bit. Somebody, when a play breaks down, can make something happen out of it. But I don't think Luke Doty's ready to play as a true freshman. And honestly, guys, again, I agree with everyone. Ryan Helinski should have played in that game Saturday. I mean, God, you're down 28 points, bro. Like, what's the difference? Who cares? Give him a shot. Let him get some snaps. But I don't think Ryan Helinski would necessarily be doing anything that Colin Hill's not doing. I really don't. I don't think he'd be doing anything better or different or anything like that. And again, it's unfortunate because I think Colin Hill's the best option on the roster. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's really a good thing. As much love as I've got for Colin Hill and what he's done this year, and again, he's kept South Carolina in football games. He's been steady Eddie, for all the positives he's done. There's just not a lot of upside with him. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of upside there. And when you go on the road to Baton Rouge and you're facing a team like LSU that's got the, again, they were struggling defensively coming in this football game, but we all knew they still had talent. And I just knew early watching the tempo of this game, the pace of this game, the way it was going, the way LSU was scoring on our defense, I was like, there's just no way we're going to be able to keep up. There's just no way. With the lack of weapons and just simply with Colin Hill and his limitations, I thought there's no way we're going to keep up. So, I mean, I'll just tell you guys, I don't think a quarterback change is coming. I think unless Colin Hill goes down with an injury or unless he just starts to play abysmally bad, I think Colin Hill's QB1. Like, I really think he's QB1. Again, I wish there was truly a no-doubt, no-brainer, better option on the roster. I really do. Because I've said this before. I said it in the offseason, and I'll say it again. I think to win big at South Carolina, to win games like this even, the one we just saw on Saturday night, to win games like that, to win at South Carolina big, you got to be creative. Like, I think in the long run, to win big at South Carolina, you need a dual-threat quarterback. You're simply not good enough. You don't have enough talent to have a guy stand back there in the pocket and play 10 on 11 football, because that's what you're doing. You're eliminating the quarterback from the game as far as it being a threat. He can throw it, but that's it. Because we've all seen Colin Hill at the first sign of pressure, that man is going down. I mean, he's a statue back there. No doubt he's a statue. In the long run, in the long term, in the grand scheme, yes, I think you need a dual-threat quarterback at South Carolina to win big. But you don't have that guy right now. I mean, I don't think Luke Doty, God, I'd think if he was ready to play, he'd be out there. You know what I mean? If he was ready to play quarterback in the SEC, he wouldn't have got moved to wide receiver. So I think he's your best option right now, which, again, there's value in a guy that you know what you're going to get out of him week after week, and is going to be steady Eddie. But unfortunately, in a game like this, when you really need guys like Colin and your other playmakers to kind of take their game and elevate it to the next level, put it in the next gear, if you will, I just don't know that Colin's got that gear. I don't know that he has that. Especially not when you got to score 53 to win. I know he doesn't have that gear. So overall, guys, listen, Colin Hill, his worst performance of his short Gamecock career. There's no question. He's an extremely average quarterback. There's no question. No doubt. But are we going to see a change? I wouldn't bank on it. I would not bank on it. And I really feel like Saturday night you saw what was my biggest fear in the preseason come to fruition. Is just the absolute lack of weapons, the lack of playmakers on this offense. And especially when Shi Smith gets taken away. Because he had the 2 catches for 68 yards, quote unquote, but I'm pretty sure both of those came on sweeps that they counted as a pass and a catch or whatever. But Shi Smith basically got taken out of this football game. And so you had Key Mullins with 2 catches. So this is outside of Shi Smith. Your leading receiver had 2 catches. That was Key Mullins, Shi Smith, and Deshaun Fenwick. Each had 2. And Kevin Harris had 2. Outside of that, you had Nick Muse, 1 catch for 17 yards. He's a tight end. Then outside of that, you had Dak Joyner, 1 for 8. Josh Vann, 1 for 5 and a touchdown, by the way, which kudos to Josh Vann. And then Jalen Brooks getting his feet wet, 1 catch for 3 yards. But you just simply don't have the offensive weapons. It was like my worst nightmare actually came to fruition. I will say, the offense, hell, you still scored 24 points, which I guess there's no moral victories, but hell, you still scored 24 points. The major positive, obviously, being Kevin Harris is still a beast. 12 for 126. He had that 49-yard touchdown run. Averaged 10.5 yards a carry. Had 2 TDs in the game. Wish he'd have got the opportunity to run it more, but when you get down the way South kind of did, I guess, what can you do? It was bad all across the board Saturday night. Offensively, just not explosive enough. You just don't have enough weapons. And again, especially in a game like this where LSU is just going down the field at will, this South Carolina football team is not built to win games of that nature. They're just not. The Gamecocks are not built to win games like that. Bottom line. But, getting back to, again, the talking point. Colin Hill, the quarterback situation. I just don't think you're going to see a change. And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying that I'm happy about it. But Colin Hill is the best option probably on your roster. Will we see other guys at some point maybe rotate in? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe we will. But as far as Hill getting benched, I'm not holding my breath, and I just don't know how much that would help this football team. Again, I just don't. Taking emotion out of it, not allowing emotion to cloud logic. I don't think Ryan Helinski again would be doing much more, if anything, more than what Colin Hill's done. I still say it. I have not heard many football reasons as to why Ryan Helinski would be a better option. They're kind of the same guy, right? Neither is mobile. I think Hill does throw a pretty ball. I don't think Ryan's throwing ability is, maybe his escapability is a little better. But would he have made a difference in the damn game Saturday night? I doubt it. And then Luke Doty, who I think we'd all love to see on the field at some point, he's a true freshman. What can he do? How much can he really do? But again, hey, hell, look at LSU's true freshman, what he did. So I don't know. I don't see Colin Hill getting benched. I think he's going to be the quarterback. I'd love to see him at some point rotate in some other guys, especially, hell, if you're losing again. There's no excuse. Get other guys in there. Just try some different stuff out. Why not? But I thought offensively, this was just more of a game for South Carolina where it's just not built. It's not equipped to play in a game like this. And when South Carolina fell behind, you threw the pick six. That was kind of all she wrote. I mean, I really felt like at half, we sort of all knew down 21, it was going to take a damn miracle for South Carolina to get back in a football game. So we got to talk about special teams, too. I mean, what the hell? Holy shit. Special teams. Did not think I'd be talking about special teams here on a Monday. But I will be damned. What happened? What happened on special teams? Parker White misses 3 field goals and a kickoff return for a touchdown? Holy shit. I'm not going to pile on Parker because he has kicked the ball beautifully. He had a bad night. No other way to put it. Had a bad night. Shouldn't have been asked to kick the 54-yarder. Shouldn't have been asked to kick another one on 4th and 5, which I'm going to get into in just a second. Just an off night for him. I don't know. I mean, it was the perfect storm. It was a bad night for everybody. Everybody played like shit. There's really no other way to put it. The kickoff return that LSU took back for a touchdown, that was very Debo at Ole Miss-esque. Like, that was very Debo-esque. You know, I don't know who falls on the sword for that. Special teams coach, whatever. Just embarrassing, though. I mean, really, look like Bad News Bears. Look like Bad News Bears. So in all facets, you got your ass kicked. In all facets of the game. And it leads me to right back to Will Muschamp. How can I get off of this game without talking about Will Muschamp? You know, I said after Auburn again, great win, you know, great for the program. You had to have it. Your season, your program was going to go one of two directions. That was a must-win, a game you had to have. Boom, you won it. This one, to me, would have been, if you could have went on the road to Baton Rouge, gotten an upset win, won 3 in a row, you know, it could have been a changing of the tide, if you will, type of win. But instead, in typical Will Muschamp coach teams fashion, you go out on the big stage and you, on national TV, lay an egg and you get thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, embarrassed on national TV for everyone to see. And again, I just don't understand a few things. In year 5, under a defensive-minded head coach, when you've recruited talent and you feel like there's talent on the roster, how can you get just thrashed like that defensively? How can you get ran all over? How can you get worked and manhandled by a true freshman quarterback? How? How is it possible? Is a true freshman smarter than you are? How do you not have a game plan to make Finley work a little bit? Where is the disconnect? That is my question. And that's been my question to Gamecock fans that have not loved my comments in the past. Hey, what is it? If you want me to lay off Will Muschamp and the coaching, do you want me to say the players suck? Do the players just suck? Is that what it is? Are the players on defense, do they just suck? Is that what it is? Yes or no? I think most would say no, and I would say no. I don't believe that. I don't believe there's no talent on this damn roster. Look at the defensive talent. Look at the guys. Look at their star ratings. Look at all that shit. All that shit, all the recruiting sites love to hype up. They love to pump up. Looks like there's some pretty damn good players on the defensive side. Looks like there's some talent on the defensive side to me. Where's the disconnect? And then, of course, I mean, Will Muschamp just cannot help himself. Like, I know you're not coaching. You should not be coaching, certainly, to appease people on social media or because you know, of what you think social media may say or whatever. I get that. But, like, dude, third quarter, late in the game, I'm trying to find which drive it was. Here we go. Actually, it was second quarter, excuse me, right before the half. Right before the half. Right before the half. 4th down and 4 at LSU's 17-yard line. On the road. You're a road dog. Night game in Death Valley. It is 4th and 4 at the LSU 17-yard line. You are down 31-10. Guess what? If you make the field goal, so at that moment, it's a 3-score game. 31-10, 3-score game. If you make the field goal, it's still a 3-score game. It's still a 3-score game. What does the field goal accomplish in that scenario? And guess what? Parker White missed it. 34-yarder. Just scuffed it. You could see the turf fly up when he hit. I knew he missed it as soon as he kicked it. And you know what I said when it happened? I'm glad he missed it. I'm glad he missed it because you know why? We got what we deserved. What is Will Muschamp's slogan? What does he say? What does he tell his team? In life, you don't always get what you want, but you always get what you deserve. I'll just, excuse my French, close your ears, not safe for work. When you coach like a bitch, you get a bitch result. Bottom line. It's just like golf, right? When you take the conservative bitch play and you lay up, hey, when you shank it or when you thin it in the water, hey, you got what you deserve, bro. Don't be a little bitch. Man up next time. You get what you deserve. And I made that analogy. I know that might be funny. You might be laughing. I made that analogy in the stadium. Hey, because it happened again. And again, it was 4th and 15, though. This is a different scenario, for sure. 4th and 15. It's a lot different. But hey, 8:25 left in third. You're down 21 points. You kicked the field goal again. And guess what? You missed it again. It feels like we're a golfer who's on the 9th hole, the 18th hole, and we're like 20 over par. And we're laying up on the par 5. Who gives a shit? Just go for it. Maybe you'll get lucky and hit the green. What do you have to lose? And again, the point I was trying to get to earlier, I know Will Muschamp does not coach to appease people on social media. No shit. We know that. But you would think at some point, Will Muschamp would get into a scenario, get into one of those situations, like the one at the end of the first half and go, you know what? Everybody's expecting me to kick it here and be conservative. Everybody. And I know I'm going to get roasted on social media for it. He knows he is. He knows he will. If you think Will Muschamp does not know what's going on and being said on Twitter and on message boards and on podcasts, you are dead wrong. You are dead wrong. Hey, on Periscope, you can see who views videos. I've seen that Will Muschamp has viewed our videos before. The man sees it. He knows what's being said. You just think at one point he'd go, I'm going to get ripped to shreds for this. Why don't I just fool everybody and be aggressive just one time? Just not be myself. Just once. I mean, but that just sums up Will Muschamp as a head coach. And it's year 5, y'all. It ain't going to change. He is who he is. We said that after Tennessee. I'm saying it here now. I said it after Florida, 7-minute drive at the end of the game. He is who he is. Ironically, we just played LSU, and I'm saying this, but a tiger doesn't change its stripes. He doesn't. Again, even after Auburn, I said, I don't think he's the answer long-term to get us to Atlanta, which, again, you may scoff at that. But for me personally, I think that should be the goal. I do. If it's not, why are you playing? Why are you paying for season tickets? Why is anyone investing money? The goal is to field a team that can compete in, and again, I'm talking about Atlanta, that can compete in a football game like this one. Again, I said it in my post-game video, and I'll say it again. Will Muschamp. Bro, it's not the fact you went to LSU and lost. Like, we could have stomached that. We could have stomached a really tough road loss. You know, LSU, a talented team. It's on the road in Baton Rouge at night. I know it's 20% capacity, but it's still an intimidating place to play. But to go out and just get thoroughly whipped and embarrassed. Just flat out embarrassed. I was embarrassed leaving the stadium. It was a non-contest. It was a flat out non-contest. It's just sad, man. It's sad. It's sad. So I could go all night, man. Obviously, there's a ton to dissect, but it's pitiful. It's just a pitiful performance. And now, again, like I said, you go in the bye week, scratching your head, wondering. I mean, this bye week is massive for this team to get this shit right. And it makes this A&M game that's coming up after the bye week massive. You lose to A&M at home at night. If you lose that game, you truly have wiped away all of the positive momentum, all of the positive mojo that came from that Auburn game. You've wiped it completely away. And you've put yourself right back into, we might be going 3-7 mode. Fire Will Muschamp. I already tweeted fire Muschamp after the game. And again, I said after the Auburn game, I still didn't think he was the guy long term. And God, dude, like you show up in a game like this where people are kind of riding high and they're picking you to win, and you know they're giving you the benefit of the doubt in a sense. And you just lay a fucking egg, and you don't just lose, but you look pitiful doing it. It's a tough pill for Gamecock fans to swallow, man. It's just tough. It's tough. It's a tough pill for Gamecock fans to swallow. I know all South Carolina fans got their hopes way too high for Saturday night. I was included in that. And it just lay an egg. Let me get in the biggest takeaway in game balls, then we'll get in your listener question and voicemails here. My biggest takeaway from this past Saturday, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit throughout my previous rant, if you will. But again, there's so much I could dive into here, offensively, defensively, special teams, coaching. But my biggest takeaway just sort of encompasses all that and just sort of summarizes that in one quick sentence, one quick statement. Because my biggest takeaway from Saturday is, simply put, South Carolina still isn't ready to win a game like that. They're still not ready to win a game like the one we saw Saturday night. They're still not ready to go into, I say, an environment like Tiger Stadium. Again, it was 20% capacity, but go on the road and face a team like an LSU team. South Carolina, just for whatever reason, whether it be offensive ineptitude, defensive problems, coaching, special teams. Again, you combine all that, you put that all together. And again, South Carolina is just not ready. They're not built right now to win a game like that. They're not ready to clear that next hurdle. They're not ready to turn that corner. They're not ready to. They're just not quite ready to break through. Again, I said it about the defense. I'll say about the entire football team. Where's the disconnect? Where is it? Where's the disconnect, especially defensively? I don't know. You tell me. But again, my biggest takeaway from Saturday is just simply South Carolina's just not ready to win a game like we saw on Saturday night. With everything on the line, going up against an opponent, the quality you saw in LSU, South Carolina's not ready for that stage. They're not ready to take advantage of that stage. They're not ready to win a game of that magnitude. So let's hand out some game balls, guys. TSUS game balls presented to you, by the way, by our friends over at Yardware. I want to talk about Yardware really quickly because the show is brought to you by Yardware, and the TSUS game balls I'm about to present are brought to you by Yardware as well. Guys, Yardware is a veteran-owned and operating company licensed by the University of South Carolina, selling must-have Carolina yard and wall signs. Guys, these things are awesome. I've posted about them on social media a couple times. I have mine sitting in my studio. One of the listeners, by the way, shout out Philip Carter Harris. Shout out Philip Carter Harris. He bought a sign, sent me a screenshot of it, gave his feedback, gave his review. Guys, he actually told me to tell the guys over at Yardware they should be charging more for these signs. That's how awesome they are. So, hey, hopefully they don't take his advice. And if they do, you better get in there and get these damn things before they raise the prices on them because these things are awesome. Like I said, they're made out of 12-gauge laser-cut steel, and they come in both garnet and black. Football season's in full swing. The holidays, Christmas is right around the corner, guys. This is the perfect gift for any Gamecock fan, or get it for yourself if you're a Gamecock fan. It's a must-have if you're a Gamecock fan. You can put it in your yard. You can put it in your office, your studio, your man cave, your garage, your living room, your dining room, wherever. It's an awesome piece. I mean, it is a phenomenal piece, a must-have for any Gamecock fan. You can order yours today at yardwaresigns.com. That is yardwaresigns.com. Also, be sure to follow them on social media at Yardware Signs. Again, I've posted about them a lot on social media, so you've probably seen it. But again, go check them out. These things are so awesome. Available in garnet and black. Like I said, the guys who have founded them as well, they're veterans, but they're also South Carolina alumni, by the way. I should throw that in there as well. Gamecock supporting Gamecocks. Go order yours today. A must-have for any Gamecock fan. Order yours today, yardwaresigns.com. That is yardwaresigns.com. And tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. All right, TSUS game balls again presented to you by our friends over at Yardware. Let's start on offense. I already talked about him. These are easy. I mean, I feel like these are no-brainers. These are given offense. Kevin Harris, what he did. He just continues to prove he is the dude week after week after week. Only touched it 12 times, which, again, like I said, you fall behind 21 points, and it kind of felt like you were in a state of being behind 21 points the entire game. You just simply can't run the football the way you want to. But Kevin Harris, 12 carries, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the long 49-yard rushing touchdown, averaged 10.5 yards per carry. Guys, Kevin Harris just continues to be a monster. I mean, honestly, he's ran for over 100 yards now in 3 of South Carolina's 5 games. Truly the bright spot. Truly the bright spot on not just this Gamecocks offense, but this Gamecocks ball team as well. And then defensively, my game ball, I think it's back-to-back weeks, maybe 3 weeks in a row. No, actually, because JC got it last week. But for the second time in 3 weeks, my defensive game ball, it's got to go to Ernest Jones. I mean, 19 tackles, guys. 19 tackles. That is absurd. That is crazy. That is wild. So 19 total tackles for Ernest Jones. So again, TSUS game balls presented by Yardware. Offense, we're going to hand it to Kevin Harris. Very much well-deserved, sir. Keep up the good work. And defensively, Ernest Jones, the guy was all over the field on Saturday night. Congratulations to the guys for the TSUS game balls this week. All right, let's go ahead and dive into your listener questions and voicemails. We'll get through those, and then we'll also do the interview, of course. But let's start with the listener question and voicemails. By the way, I saw somebody comment, like I said, leave reviews because I do read them. I like the feedback. Somebody commented the voicemail section gets a little bit long, and I do agree with you. So I've tried to go through here. Guys, if you're going to leave a voicemail, make sure it's a really, really, really good one because I've got to narrow it down to just a couple. So I'm just going to play 3 or 4 because I agree with you. Again, it does get to a point where you're like, it starts to drag even for me. And I know if it's dragging for me, it's definitely dragging for you guys. So like I said, we're going to play 3 or 4, kind of knock it out, get through it, and go from there. So if you do leave a voicemail, because, I mean, a lot of you do. I mean, we had like 20 voicemails after the game. Make it stand out in some capacity because, again, just simply cannot play them all. But I do appreciate everyone calling in, interacting. I listen to them all, so thank you so much for calling in and interacting. We will go ahead and start with our voicemails here.
Hey, Chris. Been a few weeks since I called in. Had to get a good, quick reaction after the lovely LSU game. So everybody was nervous, scared. How would we handle success? And there's your answer. We finally get a primetime game, and boy, do we live up to it with this performance tonight. I saw a lot of people were scared because everybody knew how we are with first-time starting quarterbacks, freshmen, how we make them look like Heisman winners, and there you go right there. Made this guy look like a pro quarterback, basically. And I don't even know what the defensive game plan was. I know you go break this down in the show, but I don't even know what we're doing. We don't blitz. We play 10 yards off the receivers. We give up slants left and right all day. I don't know what we're thinking. LSU was challenged defensively, especially on the deep ball. We hit a couple of really nice ones, but this just wasn't it for Colin Hill tonight. I'm not going to knock him. I'm not going to say anything about it because it just is what it is. He is a statue in the pocket, but he didn't have it. He didn't have it tonight. Meanwhile, Kevin Harris and Sean Fenwick, great game by them. Had no issues with them. Harris ran well. Fenwick ran real hard. No issues with either of them. Parker, just tough night for him. I didn't agree with kicking that 54-yard field goal earlier. Maybe it got at his head. Unusual night for Parker to kick off return. Just embarrassing in every facet and all phases of the game. So that's where we're at, 2-3. Yeah, anyway, good talk. Take care, Chris. Looking forward to the show Monday.
Hey, Tim, appreciate the voicemail as always, man. Yeah, it's comical, man. I'm laughing at your voicemail because, hey, they say it's better to laugh than cry, right? I mean, I never do pretend to be like, if you listen to Eric Kimry's podcast, for example, he's a coach. Like, he's a very much X's and O's guys. And, obviously I understand the games, but I don't pretend for you guys, obviously, to be this crazy deep diving X, talking about 21 personnel and 11 personnel and this and that. And, the way whatever. I'm not diving into the game in that level of depth necessarily. But I'd love to know what the defensive game plan. I have no idea. I have no clue what the thought process was defensively. Because I agree with you. Playing 10 yards off the ball, playing 5-10 yards. Why we thought we could keep up with LSU's athletes on the outside is just beyond me. It truly is. I don't know what made South kind of think they could keep up with those guys. Because, hell, as soon as the LSU wide receivers touched the football, as soon as they caught it, they were gone a lot of the time. Hey, tackling, still a problem. I just genuinely don't. Where did the aggressive nature go? Where did the aggressiveness go? Where did the edge go that I talked about? Where did it go? Like, I just genuinely do not understand why we play so soft on early downs. We're so conservative on these early downs. I just don't get it. But yeah, no, Tim, you hit on a bunch of great points, man. I agree with you 110%. So,
Chris motherfucking Phillips. Gamecocks, bro. Gamecocks. What the hell? True freshman comes in there and puts up those numbers, puts up that kind of score. Embarrassing. One thing and only. You've been saying it. The whole fan base has been saying it. And I'm going to say it for you. Fire Will Muschamp. He should have his lake house Monday. He shouldn't have that lake house tonight. He shouldn't have that. It is pure life miserable. It's miserable being a Gamecock fan right now. It is. And the points that we gave up, offense didn't. The offense looked bad. We looked shitty. We looked shitty. Fire Will Muschamp. That's all I got to say. See you on the show Monday, brother. Fire Will Muschamp.
All right. Appreciate the voicemail. You kind of get a sense of how the fan base is feeling. So, Gonna fly through the rest of these. We got a couple of short ones I'm gonna kind of fire off here.
Hey, man, I just wanted to call in, dude. Charleston, South Carolina. I watched the game tonight. There's so much potential in this team, man. It just makes me so mad to see us lose like this, especially coming off a huge win against Auburn. Come out and you just play pitiful tonight. I feel like the bye week's going to help our team a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and call an early prediction for an A&M upset Saturday night under the lights off the bye week. Appreciate it, man. Go Cox.
All right, appreciate the voicemail. Love the positivity there. He's got a win coming out of the bye week. Love it.
Yeah, this is Brad Purgle, and I really think Will Muschamp should be fired. I mean, after that performance, you didn't change no quarterback. You left Colin Hill in there, and he took sack after sack. It's very frustrating.
All right, well said. Short, sweet, and to the point. Got about 2 or 3. Yeah, we'll do 3 more, and then we'll get to the Instagram questions.
I just have one question, whatever comment here. You're the best defensive coach, or it's called one of the defensive coaches, but the team that you just played that is 1-2 and got beat by Missouri never punted the ball ever in this football game. Go home and think about that tonight while you lay your head down on that pillow.
Appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean it's it's a good point. Here's a fun voicemail, by the way. You guys may recognize this Twitter account if you're on Twitter. Very fun voicemail, and I appreciate him calling in.
Hey man, how's it going? This is actually Colin Hill's beard from Twitter. I mainly make memes, but I do have some post-game thoughts that I wanted to share. I will admit, tough night for my guy, Colin Hill. But what I personally think, and what I think I want, fans and everybody to take away from this game is not that Colin Hill should not be a starting quarterback going forward. It's that we need to figure out what our defensive identity is and what is going to be our main defensive, strategies going forward. Because like you said, the defensive game plan was just not there. It was just absent. It was really pathetic just watching them get carved up by a true freshman. They were just getting carved apart. Every slant looked open. Every hook looked open. It was just unreal watching them just get absolutely carved up by a true freshman. So I think that is my biggest negative takeaway, honestly. That being said, I'm not going to defend Colin Hill's performance that much. I didn't think he played well. In games like that, you kind of need a quarterback that is able to throw you back into the game once your defense is letting you down. And Colin Hill really isn't that guy, or at least he hasn't shown to be that guy. So although I think he is the best option going forward, he's going to have to play better and be able to make throws to keep us in games. Because what you said before, he's not going to throw us out of games, but for us to keep winning and for us to actually have a successful season, he's going to have to throw us in games if our defense is going to be, inconsistent. And Kevin Harris played great, but in 2020 college football, you're not going to score 40 points all on the ground. So that's just what I'm thinking. Thanks for everything you do. Keep up the good work. All right. Thanks, man.
All right, Colin Hill's beard on Twitter. The guy does make fire memes. I've used some before, so Colin Hill's beard, thank you for calling in. I mean, here's the thing. The offense struggled. Colin Hill struggled mightily, obviously, but it's almost for me, the defense played so badly that almost masks how bad that just tells you how bad the defense was, that it masks the offense ineptitude. I think you hit the nail on the head with Colin Hill, just in the sense that he's not, and he doesn't have the weapons around him to throw you back into games either. I mean, just bottom line, let's call it for what it is. He does not have those weapons on the outside to go to throw you back into games either. So, I mean, I agree. He's got to play much better. Like I said, I still, take it for what it's worth. Take it however you want. I still think he's probably the best option on this roster currently. But yeah, I mean, he's got to play better. And again, South Carolina is just not built to win games like the one they played on Saturday. They're not built to keep up with that type of offensive output that LSU had. I mean, they're just not. They're not. And South Carolina obviously is not good enough to shoot itself in the foot. It's not good enough to have a pick six and give up a kickoff return for a touchdown and miss 3 field goals and stay in a game at all. So, if you just told me before the game South Carolina would have made those mistakes, I would have told you they got blown out. And sure enough, look what happened. So, got one more voicemail, and then we'll dive into your listener questions, and we'll get in the interview.
What's up, man? Appreciate you taking the call. I'll say it. Colin looked like Jake Bentley to me. Looked like very similar situation, almost a similar offense at times with the mistakes that was being made. I saw several guys open while he was taking sacks. He made a bad decision on the pick. Just wondering if another quarterback would have at least given us a little better chance offensively. Defense, there wasn't no help. We looked horrible. But anyways, appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Short, sweet, and to the point. Really do appreciate you taking the time to call in. I will say this. I think Jake was more agile than Colin Hill. He at least his escapability, his agility getting out of the pocket, obviously much better. I mean, Colin Hill, 3 ACL surgeries on one leg. What do you expect? But, yeah, I mean, it's just bad all the way around, man. You hit the nail on the head. Bad all the way around. There's really no other way to put it. And where do you go from here? Again, I still, like I said, I still think Colin is the best option. I really do. And again, like take it for what it's worth. I'm not, I wouldn't mind seeing, if they feel like that, Ryan Helinski or somebody else is going to give this team a spark, go right ahead. I'm not saying don't put him in, but I don't know, man. I think right now Colin's still probably the best option on this roster. And do I love saying that? No, I don't. But that's just kind of the reality of the situation. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive in these listener questions. Knock them out. Thomas_Brady_H. This isn't season ending, but it's not that we lost. It's how we lost. Agree 100%. He also says, I'm ready for Florida to fire Dan Mullen so we can fire Muschamp and hire Dan. I don't know when you think Florida's firing Dan Mullen, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Let's see. Hamplet says, give me 30 men in 3 months and I'll beat Muschamp. End of story. I'd love to see it. Andrew_D_textbook. How did this game change your opinion on Colin Hill? Honestly, it didn't really change my opinion all that much. I kind of had a sick feeling in my stomach going in that Colin Hill was due for a bad game. I'll be totally honest with you guys. And it just, when you get down like that and you're going to force Colin Hill to throw and the defense can pin its ears back and he can't run, that's just kind of what's going to happen. So I don't feel like I learned anything new about Colin Hill that I didn't already know. I mean, just is what it is. He kind of is who he is. Captain of the Store, we're going to try to keep it simple. Try number 3, play press man, and what the hell happened? Let's see. Saint Doc Kirk says, send Muschamp a Venmo for the cost of your travels and your ticket. Tater Hater and SC says, you suck. Thanks, Tater Hater. I appreciate it. Jonah Montgomery, SC boy, but he's a defensive guru, guys. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Hudson_the_Boykin. I just want to know, is our defense just that bad or did we have a shitty night? Again, I don't think our players are that bad. I don't know. I'm not really sure what the disconnect is. I'll put it this way. We're somewhere between the way we looked against Auburn and what you saw against LSU. We're not as good as you saw against Auburn. We're not as bad as you saw against LSU. I think we're somewhere in the middle. So, Drew Ambrose, you've talked about it for weeks, but the conservative approach hasn't worked. Hello, Tom Herman. I mean, maybe. Chris World, don't draft the apology letter. We're losing the rest of our games. Garrett_C12. I really do feel like this program is trending up. I know that's an unpopular thing to say right now, but yeah. I mean, hey, like I said, get to 5-5 this year. It's still possible. It really is. Believe it or not, as bad as we feel, it's still possible. To me, you got to do that, though. If you want to say that it's trending in the right direction, you got to win games for it to trend in the right direction. So, let's see. Drayton_Huffman. Any chance versus A&M? I think so. I think there's a chance. I'll be interested to see what that line looks like and how A&M looks this upcoming weekend. But night game at home, you'd like to think you got a chance. So, Slade and Jack, Hugh Freeze for head coach. Not the worst idea. JB Goodlow 33. What are your thoughts on offensive play calling? I mean, again, when you get behind like you did, you're handcuffed. You know, that's just not South Carolina's game. That's not South Carolina's game. They don't have enough weapons on the outside, weapons in general, to try to throw it over the yard and throw themselves back in the game. So that's just not their game. That's just not their game. So, and last question, D Robes 4. If we beat A&M, will you write an apology letter to Muschamp? No, I will not. What are you talking about? I said I'd write an apology letter to Will Muschamp if we got to 5 wins or more. No other circumstance will I be writing that apology letter. So get to 5 wins or more if you want it. If not, hell no. Hell no. I should say that. So, all right, let's get into our interview, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it was a long show, a lot to get into, but thank you so much for tuning in. Now, we have a fantastic interview. Former Gamecocks wide receiver Willis Ham. I was able to talk with him, played at South Carolina in the late 90s, early 2000s. A guy who saw it all. He was part of South Carolina when they went 1-21, and had the 21-game losing streak. He was part of that. He was also part of the teams that won back-to-back Outback Bowl games. Tons of funny stories, too, about Brad Scott, Lou Holtz. He also gives his take on the current state of the program, a lot of stuff, the X and O's. Also, the take on Gamecock fans on social media, because he does run one of the Facebook groups on Facebook that is full of Gamecock fans. So really, really interesting conversation. Great stuff with Willis Ham. And it's all brought to you by our friends over at Southern Oaks Remodeling. Guys, Southern Oaks Remodeling, locally and family owned, over 15 years of experience. They specialize in roofing, windows, doors, siding, and addition, and they're serving the greater Columbia areas. Guys, like I talked about with some of my other sponsors, service is really the things that set people apart. And when you invest in a business or a company to do work for you, you're not investing in that company. You're not. You're investing in the people that are behind that company. I've had the pleasure of meeting the guys over at Southern Oaks Remodeling. They are awesome. They take care of the people. They know what they're doing. Like I said, that local flavor, locally and family owned, you really get that. You really feel that, because when you're getting remodeling done, somebody's coming in your home, it's a project, whatever. It's a very personal experience. Again, they're coming in your home. You're having multiple conversations. You're making updates. You're making changes. You want that transition or that process, if you will, to be as seamless and as smooth as possible. Southern Oaks Remodeling is going to provide that for you. Again, locally and family owned, over 15 years of experience. If you're in the greater Columbia area, you got to hit them up, and they can do anything: roofing, windows, doors, siding, additions, whatever it is. Stop putting off that remodeling project. We're going into the holiday season. This is the perfect time to knock out that project you've been putting off. So again, if you're in the greater Columbia area, give the guys a call, give them a ring, check them out. Southern Oaks Remodeling. That's Southern Oaks Remodeling. You can find them on social media as well. Southern Oaks Remodeling, and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up sent you. All right, enjoy this interview with former Gamecocks wide receiver Willis Ham. All right, joining us today on the Spurs Up Show is a man that played for Gamecocks football from 1998 to 2001. During his career, he had 12 catches for 173 yards and a touchdown, and he was also a member of the teams that went back-to-back, won the Outback Bowl against Ohio State. I'm very pleased to be joined by former Gamecocks wide receiver Willis Ham. Willis, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So, Willis, I want to go back to the beginning for you, because really interesting. You were recruited by Brad Scott, his staff, obviously for a year. Brad Scott was your head coach, and you were part of the group that went through the transition from Scott to Lou Holtz. But talk about first your recruitment, your relationship with Brad Scott. I know Brad Scott is someone Gamecock fans certainly have mixed feelings on, because we all know where he's at now and what he's done and what he's accomplished and all that good stuff. But anyways, just talk about that relationship with Brad Scott, your recruitment, why you chose South Carolina.
Well, number one, I love Brad Scott.
I don't dislike him. I'm just saying some fans might feel some type of way.
I always have to defend him. He's a great recruiter. Coming out of high school, I was actually a huge Florida fan, for obvious reasons if you play wide receiver. And then Kentucky came out of nowhere in the 11th hour and tried to fly me down there because they were just throwing the ball all over the place. But the main, it was two things that got me three things. One, they recruited a young man, Keith Matkins. He was like a awesome quarterback, and I went to camp with him, and we just gelled and just, smoked everybody all over the place with him. So we clicked. Number two is Coach Pugh was a running back coach. That's my godfather.
Oh, okay.
My dad, my dad was an athletic director of South Carolina State for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he, hired Coach Pugh, hired Buddy Pugh. I mean, he hired Willie Jeffries back, that whole 9 yards. So it's already a family connection there. But then one of the main things, I went to the University of Florida and went to a unofficial visit. And so I'm just going down the line, shaking hands, like, oh, yeah, my name's Kenyon Rambo. I'm the number 1 receiver in Ohio. Oh, my name is Joe Blow. I'm the number 1 receiver in New Jersey. Oh, yeah, this is Steve Shipp over there. He's the number 1 receiver in North Carolina last year. And he never saw the field. And there was like 13 of us. It looked like a conveyor belt, like, you know.
This is Spurrier's Florida teams. I mean, they're he's got receivers on receivers just lining up to come play for him.
Right, yeah. He comes to the locker room. He comes to my high school weight room. Not him, but Coach Collins, the wide receiver coach. He comes there. They get me out of biology class. He takes the championship ring and goes like this, and then tells me to go back to class. So I was like, oh, hell yeah, I like these guys. Like super cocky. But didn't even say anything to me. But South Carolina, besides Brian Scott coming in a little later, you know, off of like a gray shirt type situation,
right,
I was the only receiver they were recruiting in that class. And I was set to play the slot receiver behind Zola Davis. So you got 12, 13 guys over here, you know, in-state loyalty to all the Florida guys, or coming into Carolina being an incumbent to the man in the slot position, you know, not getting promised, but, you know, about 45, 50 balls a game in Brad Scott's offense. And so, you know, I talked to my dad. He was like, it's a no-brainer. And he's like, if you want to live in South Carolina, you know, after you graduate, you might want to consider Gamecock. So that was it.
And you were a local guy, right? Columbia, right? I mean, you're a Columbia native, correct?
Yeah, Spring Valley. Yeah,
so
right
did you factor in, like, did you want to get away from home? Was that like one of the things why you want to go to Florida, or like were you like torn on staying home or leaving?
You know what? I really didn't care too much, because even to this day, I've never taken a sip of alcohol, don't smoke, don't drink anything. Right. So I was always in the house at 10 o'clock anyway. I was on the marching band and on the football team. So like the get away from home party type deal, I didn't care. I just like how much Spurrier threw the ball.
Right.
No, for sure. I was considered in Florida, yeah.
So I'm sure you were a huge fan when South Carolina hired him, which we can get to later. But that's kind of ironic how that all kind of comes full circle, right? That's interesting. I want to talk about that first year again, 98. And I'm sure when you signed on with South Carolina, like you said, you know, you come in as a true freshman, you have all these aspirations, all these goals, you know, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to come here and come help this team win a championship. And I'm sure you could never imagined what happened 98 and 99. Again, talk a little bit about Brad Scott, that 98 season. Again, I know a lot of injuries happen, especially with 99 as well, but you guys go 1-10, lose the last 10 in a row. I mean, again, could you have ever imagined your freshman season going that way?
No, and I got redshirted. So, but his thing was I think our catchphrase back then was "the storm is coming." That was his thing. The storm is coming, because really, if like when myself, Jonathan Martin from Richland Northeast, I think we were the only 2 Columbia guys there, and you know, when we got on the team, the Gamecocks were primarily Florida and Georgia people because of Brad Scott's connections from FSU back in the day. So my class was the first class where we really hunkered down and focused on in-state talent. You know, you had your Kenny Harney, your Nate Gary. You had just like a whole bunch of guys from the state of South Carolina. So it was like a thing where we were trying to, like, you know, regain dominance in the in-state recruiting thing. So it was a bunch of momentum coming in. And we came in and won the first game. You know, I'm on the sidelines getting a chance to look at Peyton Manning, Tim Couch. Like, it was crazy, Javon Curse. But I had no idea that we would come in and just put that much work in the summertime. You know, because I used to tell my guys that I graduated with in high school how much different the conditioning and the amount of time and effort you put into college athletics goes into just to lose like 9-10 games back to back, which was insane because I didn't even get to go. You know, and it's tough on the coaching staff too, trying to keep everybody up. But I don't get to go home on Christmas or Thanksgiving, so I'm walking around with my USC shirt turned inside out just to walk through the mall. You know, it was ridiculous. So yeah, it was one of the toughest things I went through.
Yeah, I was going to say, you go through that season. Obviously, again, you come to this school, and you know, obviously in the recruiting process, coaches tell you, "Hey, I'm going to be your coach the next 3 to 4 years." You're thinking all your position coach, and of course the whole that deal happens. Brad Scott gets let go. Like what was that? Did you ever consider transferring? Because it's funny. people maybe don't want to hear that, but it's funny how many former players I've talked to that it's just the life of a college athlete. You go through a coaching change, it's going to cross your mind at some point. Like, hey, like you got to weigh all your options. Like what was going through your mind when Brad Scott got let go?
Well, the thing about it was, I was in shock, but one of the factors was my dad knew about, Brad Scott's contract. And I think he had just like renewed the year before or something like that. So we were, our mindset was like, oh, we're making a real prudent decision. This is all cool, and the rug is, slipped from under us. So I was thinking about transferring because, your freshman year, I only taken a couple classes, hadn't developed too many relationships, even though the ones I did foster were like pretty tight. But the selling point was Skip and Todd Fitch.
Yeah. So
they came in with, hey, pump your brakes, fellas. We're running 5 wide receiver sets, a lot of empty formations and yada, yada, yada. Because it's funny that you mentioned, like, at the beginning of the show, like, oh, Willis Adams has 12 catches for 174 yards. Well, hell, I had that in high school in like one game.
Right.
And so I look at all these games being played on TV, and my dad will call on seeing ESPN Classic, like, hey, man, I didn't even know you played that whole game. And I'm like, yes, sir. I was out there running and blocking and running, So, you listen to my stats, you're like, oh, this guy got in like 2 games. I was like, no, man, I like started this game, played 90% of this one,
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up staying, because we didn't run like the option. I didn't know what Holtz was going to do until that first meeting.
And then the wing tee happened.
Right.
And then the wing
we set everything up to empty to thin out the box for the draw.
Yeah.
Even my mom was like, are y'all going to run that thing where he sticks the ball out and runs back? So yeah. It was just...
Well, I mean, I do want to ask you about, because again, not everybody gets to play for a Hall of Fame head coach and a legend like Lou Holtz. I mean, I want to ask you about the transition going. And again, you talked about the selling point. I mean, and I think you did see Skip try to open it up in 2000 and 2001. Like, I think of the Bama game in 2001 where, you're seeing Phil Petty in 5 wides, and the announcers are joking. Like, what's more of like shocking? Where'd that 5 wides come from? And then, of course, just so on brand, because I had Rod Trafford on the show a couple.
Yeah.
I had Trafford on the show, and it's just so fitting because you go 5 wides, and literally the next play is wing tee, and it's like, hey, just right back to it. So,
right.
But what were those first meetings like with Holtz? I mean, again, this is. I'm sure you kind of grew up watching some of Lou Holtz's teams, and again, to be coached by a legend had to be kind of probably a pretty surreal feeling at first, if nothing else.
Yeah. So what his main objective was to go against the grain. His thought process was everything that was there is the reason why everything wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of raises, the hairs on the back of your neck if you're already there, like the redheaded stepchild type deal. You're like, oh crap, I know he's not talking about me. And I'm sitting there like, hell, I was a red shirt. None of this crap is my fault, but whatever, dude. Like, so his whole thing was to go against the grain in terms of attitude and building character. Mm-hmm. So it was no earrings. If your gold teeth could come out, they were coming out, because some of the guys got them done in the dentist. Mm-hmm. If you had braids, those are getting cut off. I'm bald, so I don't care. Those are getting cut off. Yeah. Names on the back of the jerseys, gone, because we had too many prima donnas. Kind of like when you see people make a tackle 30 yards down the field and flex, that whole mindset out the window. And it just happened to line up at the same time when the NCAA started having that uniformity type deal where we had either pro socks or no socks.
Right.
You remember, like in 1998, you could have a damn half jersey showing your ab muscles.
Yeah. Because Ricky Williams was like, I mean, that's all you see is like he had that half cut up jersey or whatever.
Right. You could have like wristbands all up and down your arms. You could have like different color gloves. The NCAA had pro socks, and they made everybody wear those gray gloves for like 3 or 4 years. So that happened. And then the most impactful meeting that he ever had was he was talking about fundamentals and why people are like making mistakes. And he said, because there's a lack of accountability. And you have a lack of accountability because you don't trust the man next to you. And the reason you don't trust the man next to you is because you don't know the man next to you. And so what we did after every summer practice during like 2-a-days and into the season, 1 or 2 guys would get up and kind of give their life story. Mm-hmm. So, like the struggles, you find out like all kind of family problems. Like it was one guy on my team with all these scars on his forearm. We learned the story behind that. And what that happened and what made that click in our heads was it turned it into like you're responsible for another person, not just like an X or O. So that accountability level raised as well. So that's how he kind of changed the culture. And then in terms of us, having the pants sagging or looking sloppy, wearing whatever we wanted, he took us all down to Lurie's, which was, downtown,
Right.
at the local haberdashery, and all of us got fitted. And I think they took money out of people's financial aid, or just made you, or did some. It was some arrangement that was not illegal that people were griping about, but all of us had the black blazer with the gold buttons, gray slacks, black and garnet tie, and white dress shirt and belt and black shoes. And that's what became our uniform getting on and off the bus. But he had to go so hard because there was a lot of things in the culture he had to eventually break down.
When did it click for you that the offense wasn't going to be quite how you imagined?
Oh man, you know what? So that summer we go visit Coach Fitch and then Skip, and they give us a VHS tape, which lets you know how old I am. But it's a VHS tape of him on a whiteboard, and they're just like going to town. I'm telling you, we had a million plays, man, like a million. So I'm like cheesing from ear to ear, like
bunch of pass plays. Oh
yeah, a bunch of pass plays. I mean, they're just going to work, like having to change out markers, like just doing it. So like the first game, I'm like, okay, cool. We're not, throwing. It took like 3 games, and I was like, okay, I see where this is going. I see where this is going.
And you had the big bruising backs too. I mean, I think Andrew Pennick's just the one that jumps out immediately. I mean, that it kind of fit the style there. But so you go into the 99 season, and again, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of hype. Lou Holtz has taken, and at that point, I mean, again, this is obviously pre-Steve Spurrier. I think a lot of South Carolina fans never imagined that South Carolina could get a head coach like a Lou Holtz, who was such a legend, Hall of Famer, whatever. But you go into that first season, like you were saying, you redshirted your first year as a freshman, but you go 1-10, and you never could have imagined that would happen. Then you go 0-11. I mean, and you look back at that, and I've talked to guys that were on that 99 team, and you look back, there were tons of injuries, and God bless Phil Petty for the beating he took that season. But
right.
I mean, again, you got to just be sitting there at the end of that year, and you're like, who did I piss off? Like, what football gods did I piss off to deserve this?
Yeah, man. I mean, you couldn't watch ESPN. It was like insane because I think we started off on NC State, and it was like some monsoon or something.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking about, like we're all jacked up, and Coach Holtz got mad because every game he gets like this strawberry milkshake or something. And he ended up throwing the strawberry milkshake against the wall. I'm like, oh hell yeah, we're just like, like we're just like going bananas. So we come off that game with the L, but in the back of your mind, you're still kind of writing it off with that hurricane conditions.
Right.
But then, man, it was just so tough going 1-10, and you get the new coach, and then you spend the just like the hardest summer ever, just like breaking habits, people having second thoughts. I mean, it's just a bunch of things going on. It was just like a whirlwind, but it was crazy losing 11 games in a row. And just the quintessential moment that kind of summed up the whole season. Like every week you were up here. Like he did do a good job of motivating, which is kind of like a duh moment when you're talking about Coach Holtz, because he can have you ready to run through a brick wall, Right. So every week we were up here. And by the time the game ended, we were down here, but we were back up.
Right.
So I remember, just being on the sideline with my partner Keith. We played on Mississippi State. I'm talking about we must have had the best practice ever, because it was just a super positive moment. And we're just like, oh, and the kickoff goes, and we're just like looking at the kickoff. Then we're like, boom. Joker took it all the way back.
Right.
The shortest hype moment of my life. It lasted like 15 seconds, and it was just like back to normal. And then we had my man Kevin Sides in there, and we lost at quarterback because all the injuries happened. Because he was like one of our walk-ons, but he ended up playing quarterback, and then Arkansas beat us like they were an NFL team. It was just, it was growing pains though. But I think it primed us for what was to come the next 2 years in terms of character.
Yeah, and I was going to say, let's get into the positives, because again, you go through that 21-game losing streak. We all know about it, but then, like you said, you get redemption. I'm curious to hear from you, Willis. Like, what was and again, like you were saying, Lou Holtz is a guy, you listen to him talk, he'll make anybody want to run through a brick wall. I mean, I think, he did like motivational speeches and like speeches to, big groups of people and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's what he does. You know what I mean? He'll get people fired up and ready to go. But what was I guess from that off season from 99 to 2000, because I imagine the guys in that locker room, you're thinking this has got to stop. Like we've got to stop this. What do you think necessarily primed you guys for that 2000 season? Because again, literally I think it was the biggest turnaround in college football history. It still might be the biggest or one of the biggest turnarounds in college football history. Like, what do you think specifically? Is there anything you can pinpoint specifically, or a couple things that you would say led to that turnaround you saw in 2000?
Yeah, it's basically like the adage of you just can't get any lower. So what it was, I mean, even though we're playing the season, just like I told you, all those changes were made. Like, I mean, you couldn't even spat your shoes up, put tape on your shoes unless you graded out a winner. Like you see all the swag on Instagram and like how stuff is, and
for sure.
just how the mindset of the young college athlete is. So during that season, there was a lot of pushback going on. So once we got so low, it was either one or two things. You're gonna be like 1-33, or you're gonna buy into this shit, like for real.
Yeah,
like that's it. And that's what finally clicked. And is as funny as it is, like Lou doesn't look like he is a football player or anything, but he knows everything about every single position. And his whole thing was just like fundamentals. And that summer, you could see people finally just giving up and just going back to the basics of, hey, let me get in a good football position. Let me forget about my celebration. Let me stop one hand catching this. Like, what are the basic fundamentals that it takes for me to be successful per position? And you could actually see it that summer after we went 1-21. I think that's what really clicked. Because prime example, I specifically remember one day doing drills with Sheldon Brown. Like, we were just doing like some phase drills or something. We had to mirror you. And I was like, holy shit, like, what did he do over the summer? I was like, this dude is going to the NFL. I said that at one particular practice, and you could see a lot of guys just turn that corner. Like, you could literally see it like that summer. So I think it was just a mental buy-in with what Coach Holtz was doing and not trying to push back.
For sure. And I was going to say it definitely paid off in 2000. You get that win week 1 against New Mexico State, snap the streak. And then in the very next week, you beat Georgia. And I talked about, I think last week when we were breaking down the Auburn game, that every coach has sort of that monumental win, or that turn the corner win, or that breakthrough win. And that Georgia game was it. The Quincy Carter, 5 interceptions, nobody. And you mentioned Sheldon Brown. He balled out that game. That entire defense balled out. But you guys, back-to-back weeks, tear down the goalpost. I think it was maybe last fall. I was at a bar in 5 Points. I forget exact bar. There's still a piece of the goalpost in one of the bars in 5 Points from that Georgia win.
Right.
Just talk about, like you were saying, going from the low of 1-21 to you beat New Mexico State, goalposts get torn down. Then you beat Georgia. And I'm sure after that it's like, okay, we're rolling. Now we're rolling. Now we got it going. Like, just talk about that 2-week stretch to start out 2000.
Yeah, so we beat New Mexico State. Like, that was awesome. That was just to get the monkey off our back.
Right.
Because, one thing a D1 athlete is going to be is still confident. So we could have been 0-52 and been like, man, that was just New Mexico State. Bump that. Like, know. So when Georgia came in, and Quincy wasn't focused that game either. So he was the real MVP. He had some other stuff going on, which I'm not going to slander anybody, but he you probably heard stories about that.
Yeah.
But so he threw those 5 picks, but the thing I most appreciated is how opportunistic we were, and I feel like we were just like literally everybody was just foaming from the mouth. Like, we were just like there to just kill everything, and that win helped us feel as though we belonged. That's what it was, because you would go into these arenas and in stadiums and see the whole lore of, Tennessee, their tradition. Well, what tradition that we really, really, really have in recent history to recall as Gamecocks, in terms of beating like the Mississippi States. Like, they had one of the best defenses with Fred Smoot and those guys back then. Like, it was just like a whole bunch of just perennial powerhouses in the SEC by name.
Right.
And so once we had that Georgia win early in the season, it was just all downhill from there.
Well, Willis, I want to talk about you specifically, because in 2000, like you said, you were in an offense that was run heavy, no question, wing T option, whatever. You finally get in 2000, have a big game against Vandy, 4 catches for 70 yards, Tennessee, 3 catches, 29 yards. Just talk about getting on the field finally. I mean, how much of a relief was it for you? Again, personally, the team was having success, but you started to see success. And like you said, You were on the field a lot. You were playing, whether the stat line showed it. I mean, talk about your development as a player, and then to finally start seeing, like I said, start seeing some success, I'm sure had to feel good for you.
Right. So, like, I've always been one of the hardest working players on the team in terms of, like, lifting weights, running. Like, I ran 15 miles yesterday,
Nice.
I ran 15 miles yesterday in 2 hours and 20-something minutes. So I've just always been a beast in terms of that. What I lacked in, 40 speed, I always had great hands. So I never dropped balls in practice. And, my teammates were like really advocates for like, oh man, why aren't you playing type deal? But my relationships that I had built were so tight, I wasn't going anywhere. But when I finally got on the field, it was just like, man, it was like a euphoric feeling because that's what you're used to, like to not experience that, like getting targets and making plays and, that whole, I really can't even explain it. But just playing for Lou Holtz, it was just such a pressure to be successful because I watch a lot of these guys now drop a lot of passes and we had a short leash. Like you had a short leash.
I know you were probably screaming at your TV during the Florida game.
Oh yeah, like on Tennessee game, like I had a pigtail route for a first down, and I extended the ball to get it over the sticks, and that wasn't proper ball security, and I got cursed out on the sideline and pulled out. Like that's what we were dealing with,
Right.
Like, and so the limited amount of targets that I had, you're gonna be like 90% catch rate, because you don't know when the next one's coming.
Right.
But I mean, I enjoy every single moment of it. That's why I jump on a lot of people in my group who say, oh man, that wasn't anything but garbage time. But there is no garbage time.
Right.
There is no garbage time.
Especially not to the specific athlete too. Especially to the athlete.
But not even to their teammates, because their teammates want to see you succeed just as much. Like one of my favorite plays was Corey Jenkins in Kentucky game. Like he threw me like this 44-yard bomb, which I, landed on the 1 yard line. But anyway, I mean, that was like during quote unquote garbage time, but we talk about that to this day. Because I think that was like one of his first passes completed or something like that. So yeah, man, I mean, the memories stick with you forever. And in terms of like being uber successful, like it's a bottleneck effect. There's a lot of talented players who can get plugged in at any particular time and any particular program in any particular system and excel just as the guy who is excelling. So, I mean, just rolling the dice.
Yeah, and I want to move because you mentioned that Kentucky catch, and I want to move to the 2001 season specifically because, again, you got a couple catches here and there. You played in that 2001 Alabama game. You had a catch in that one, which was absolutely insane. The first time we were beating Bama, you guys won that game 37-36. You had the Kentucky catch. But I want to jump, again, we were talking a little bit off air. I want to jump to the Vanderbilt game in 2001. You had one catch for 10 yards, but it was a 10-yard touchdown catch from Dondrell Pinkins, which I know Gamecock fans are going to remember Dondrell Pinkins' name very well. But again,
right.
Like you're saying, it's – and again, you look at that game, the game was well in hand. But to get to that point where you've been working your tail off for, years – I mean, you've literally been in Carolina for, 3 or 4 years at that point, and you finally get that touchdown catch. Just talk about that play because, again, I watched it earlier today, and you ran the slant, beat the guy to the spot, caught it, and got in the end zone. Just what that meant to you at that point and then now. I mean, I'm sure that's got to be, something special you can take with you for the rest of your life. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the play was a piece of cake because the dude was trash. Like I saw him, his inside leverage, the way I lined up. I know he's like, oh, this guy's like 6'3". He's probably going to go on some fade route or something. So I just pressed him and it made him turn his hips and then went right back in and caught the slant. Because my favorite receiver is like Jerry Rice. Because I told you I'm not a 4-2 guy. So if you're not running past people, you got to be able to be a route technician. And just like I told the cornerback in Kentucky, I was like, I don't care what your 40 time is. You can only run as fast as I run. So today you run a 4.6. I mean, so that's just what it is, man. But yeah, that memory sticks with me a whole bunch, man.
Yeah,
like a whole lot.
I watched that play and I was thinking to myself, like, there had to be nothing that was going to keep you out of the end zone. Like you're like, I'm getting in the end zone here.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't, man. It really wasn't, man. It was a good one. I'm glad Dondrell got to toss one too, man, because he had a solid arm as well.
Yeah, no, I was to say, like I said, I know Gamecock fans are going to recognize that name, Dondrell Pinkins, who was the starter basically all 2003.
Right.
I want to ask you, of course, about those back-to-back Outback Bowl wins, again, beating Ohio State. And again, coming from what, again, I think it just has to hold a special place in your heart, coming from where you started 98, 99 to finally breaking through and seeing the success. And I mean, heck, beating an Ohio State program like you were talking about, you guys played programs like Tennessee and Georgia and Florida with all their tradition and all these shiny things. And it's like you beat them back to back, like whatever, and you blow them out one time. And the other time you had the last second field goal, which I guess probably should have been a blowout when you look at the game. Whatever, you won the game either way. And then they go on to the national title the next year, which is crazy when you think about it. But just talk about being a part of that. I mean, like you said, you literally go from wearing your South Carolina shirt inside out to back-to-back Outback Bowl champs, and I'm sure you're flaunting it all around. And you know what I mean? You got something to be proud of.
Yeah, so I mean, talk about a perennial powerhouse like Ohio State.
Yeah,
insane. So I mean, we have just as many questions about like who the real Ohio State is everybody else does. Just in terms of like never playing a team from the Big Ten, and so and just the proximity that you are with the other team in the bowl situation is just like unique in itself. Those are some of the biggest human beings I've ever seen. Like some of those guys are like walking through the doorway and like the same size as the door. It was like, holy, like this is insane, But I mean, going from like the gutter of college football period to all of a sudden coming into the hotel, getting your gift bag, getting all your swag, getting your big per diem check, going to see NFL games, the hockey games, going to Busch Gardens to the beach party, getting your ring, coming to the stadium. Like it was just like a surreal experience. It brought everybody back to that feeling like we had in our first game. Because a lot of people who haven't played on the big stage, one thing, it's like when you get in the zone, like crowd noise disappears. And then that first game you play, it's almost like you feel like you're in the television set, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like everything's so bright. Like you're used to seeing this uniform on TV. You're used to seeing like the perfectly manicured field. You almost have to like pinch yourself to like be like, oh no, I'm in it. That's why you see a lot of guys, hitting each other on the helmet or like all the screaming. You got to kind of shake yourself out of it. And that's that same experience that we had in the bowl game. And it's funny that we played the same opponent, same location, same bowl. And so even though I'm 40, I feel like I'm 75 years old when people ask me how I feel about both games because they both meshed together. I'm like, is that the one we had the garnet jersey or the white jersey? Like, what happened with that one? Is that like the gold ring or the silver ring? I can't remember, but we saw XYZ.
Is that the Ryan Brewer game or the Daniel Weaver game?
Right.
Yeah.
But those are some. But you can. There's 100% a speed, overall team speed advantage that we took advantage of. But in terms of like popping pads and hitting, like the Big Ten was bringing it. Like,
no, for sure. And I just just randomly sitting here thinking, Willis, it's interesting because I feel like Gamecock fans, and me specifically as well, like have such a reverence for those teams, those 2000, even with the struggles, with Holtz's first year, you think back and like you just name guys off those teams like, Petty, Ryan Brewer, Pinnock, yourself. I mean, Langston Moore and Corey Jenkins and Dondrell Pinkins. It's I'm sure, like you were saying, because you're saying that you and Corey Jenkins still talk about that play and stuff. And like I said, I've had guys from those teams on my show, and it's just got to be a really cool thing for you guys, like a cool feeling for you guys to know that you were kind of like the worst to first team, basically. You know what I mean? Like to be a part of that. And because I mean, I really believe in like, what we saw happen with, and I know it didn't end necessarily the way Lou Holtz would have wanted it to, but he did change the culture to an extent. There's no question Lou Holtz did change the culture. I mean, without Lou Holtz, there wouldn't have been a Steve Spurrier, and without that, there wouldn't have been the run we saw from 10 to 13. Without that, there wouldn't be the expectations we have now. So when you're building that, when you're building a program, I mean, it's all in the long run. And without you guys, what you did, I would say, I mean, we wouldn't have, we certainly wouldn't have had what we saw in 11 to 13. And like I said, have the expectations now. So bottom line, my point is that's got to be cool for you guys as far as being in that unique fraternity of guys that got the job done and won those Outback Bowls. Right. And don't forget Eric Kimmery either. Yeah, how can I forget Kimmery? I was on a show last week. Could never forget Kimmery. The fade, man. Yeah. But and so like, and I'm glad you mentioned all those guys too, because, back to taking the names off the back of the jerseys, there are so many intricate pieces in terms of like role players. Because, special teams, that third phase,
Like that's what Coach Holtz, his main emphasis was on, like the special teams. Like people like popping past, being in the correct position. No bonehead mistakes. Being accountable. That's what took us to the next level. Even down to like my guys on the scout team. Like learning the other team's offense and not having the scout team is like a disgrace, but like actually like a badge of honor. And people actually appreciating their roles. So we had to swallow a lot of pride for the good of the entire program. And with so many different people having little moments here and there, it really let the Gamecock Nation know that, hey, this program can excel. We're not just at the mercy of just like one big recruit or one person. We saw the team go from here to here, because you really can't pin the success on one player.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it was definitely a team effort, like you said. I don't want to forget also Derek Watson. That was a name. Yep. That was a big contributor right there. I want to ask you though, because again, the Lou Holtz stories are just hilarious, and the guy, and especially the guys that can do the impressions. Andy Boyd, his is phenomenal. Kimry's is unbelievable. I want to ask you though, like you said, you were a hardworking guy. It seemed like you did the right thing, but did Holtz ever light a fire under your ass? Like, I mean, is there like a time you can recall where like he really ripped you a new one?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like so.
Because it seemed like he ripped everybody. I mean, it seemed like he just got after everybody.
Yeah, so one Sunday, man, because like I got like pretty big hands. I have short fingers, but I have like huge palms.
Right.
Like so, like if a ball is like coming in my face, sometimes I could just catch it like that.
Right.
Or like this or something.
Right.
Like and like not even bobble, just like boom. And he was like, "God damn it, Willis, get your ass over here." So like one Sunday, he calls my dorm phone, like the 555-3344 number. And I'm like, stop playing, because I'm thinking it's like Phil or Kimry.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's me. He's like, come to the stadium. I was like, oh crap, he's about to snatch my scholarship. So he brings me, up to his office, and he sits me down and he's like talking to me about, how to catch. I'm like, this is like the Twilight Zone, man. It's Sunday at like 4:00 or something. And then he takes this commemorative football, the kind with like the half white and the half leather that people sign. Yeah, he like takes the commemorative football and proceeds to show me the correct hand positions to like catch a pass, and then like sends me back. And then like the time he dug into me like the most was we were practicing for one of the bowl games, because I told you I can't remember which one is which.
Right.
But I just know it was freezing cold and my hands were like blocks of ice, because it was like in January or something, right? December-ish. So it's like freezing cold. So I run a slip screen. I take one step up and go back around. And then like, Phil throws the pass and it hits me in my hand and goes, just drops straight to the ground. And he's like, get your ass over here. This is damn ass Spring Valley. He's like, Willis Ham, sometimes I swear he could mess up a damn wet dream. I'm like, oh
gosh.
But yeah, it was funny though. I mean, he had a great sense of humor, but everything was for for your betterment.
He was ruthless. Funny. He was ruthless. It sounds like he'd make you feel that big. It's what it sounds like from what I've heard. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, he would come rolling up in the golf cart, man, and people would be like talking about him, but when to stop, because you could smell his cigar. No, you could smell his pipe. You could smell his pipe like 20 yards before he got to you. So you're like, what the?
Well, I want to ask you too. You mentioned Phil Petty, and we talked about Kimry as well, Corey Jenkins and Dondrell Pinkins and all those other guys. And I guess you were on the team with Anthony Wright, correct? Was 98? Was that Anthony's last year? Yeah. So
I was on the team with Anthony.
Yeah, I've had Aiden on the show too, and obviously, I mean, he's a legend. Got a cannon of an arm.
Best arm talent ever.
Yeah, had a great NFL career, and that. And again, this is getting kind of off track, but I heard Kimry talk about this, and I don't remember exactly when it was. His dream was to be an NFL quarterback, and he said he showed up to camp and saw A1 throw the ball, and he's like, I might want to start doing something else. So
I had to my freshman year, I was playing catch with A1, like warming up. Yeah, so he just throws it. I'm like, what's up with this dude's velocity? So he just throws another one and not drop it. And he was like, damn, we just giving scholarships away now, huh? And I was like, I'm about to go over there, man.
Big time player. But no, I wanted to ask you about really all those guys. I mean, again, I know I listed off a bunch of names, but obviously Kimry, I mean, again, there's not many people that have a play named after them, the fade. And then obviously Phil Petty, what he did at South Carolina, and Corey Jenkins played a big role. And, Dondrell played a big role. Just kind of talk about the quarterbacks you played with. I mean, again, especially Phil Petty, I think, because he was the guy really that led that charge from the the worst to first, and again took the beating. I feel like in '99, and obviously I know Phil. I don't know what it is about quarterbacks that wear number 14 at South Carolina, but they have a ton of success. But yeah, just kind of talk about briefly kind of some of the signal callers you played with.
So Phil, like he almost reminds me like of Colin Hill a little bit when I watch him.
I've heard somebody else say that. I feel like
like when I say he's a game manager, because people always like talking about like arm strength, and people who don't play wide receiver are always talking about, oh, look how it jumps off his hand. I was like, I don't give a damn about it jumping off your hand. You need to have a catchable ball.
Right.
You need to throw to a spot. Like I need to enjoy catching your pass. And Phil had one of those balls that was enjoyable to catch. Like so easy. It just sucked right in there. And he was a sneaky good athlete too. Like 4'5", 4'6". Like he could take off.
He was
like,
tough too. He was really tough.
Yeah, he really was, man. And he was so cerebral. Like he knew that offense. He and Kimry, but Phil would manage that game and protect the ball. And that's what I see when I look at Colin Hill now. Because honestly, I was one of those people who were just going off the deep end about Helinski not being mobile. But that's because we were running all that RPO. I was why are we doing this?
Yeah,
why do we get him with 2 yards rushing in high school and run RPOs all day?
Yep.
And so now that we have Bobo and we have like this system where I feel like you could plug in any quarterback that can learn it. So I'm much more comfortable from a fan standpoint watching another game manager that's reminiscent of Phil Petty. And it's like really taking my blood pressure down like a whole bunch watching us because of that. And then Dondrell, super arm talent. Corey, he was just like a gunslinger. He almost put a hole in my chest on the stop route. I was like, dude, you're not on the White Sox anymore, man. You just chill. Like, I'm only 5 yards away from you, man. Yeah, so he was solid. And Kimry has always been one of my favorite players because we spent a lot of time on scout team together. And he was one of the guys that's not going to throw as hard as A1, but he's going to throw to a spot. And he's a coach on the field. And so that just made my time at Carolina so much more enjoyable day in and day out, catching passes on people, like the touchdowns that you guys didn't see. Like I was making those plays every day at practice anyway, and then going to a great university and having a blast and getting my degree. So it is what it is, man.
No, for sure. And like you said, Kimry being a coach on the field, that doesn't surprise me because, getting to talk with Eric, I mean, he knows the game. That is for sure. That dude knows offense. He can, and I love listening to him talk X's and O's. I want to get into this current day South Carolina team, obviously, Willis, because we're you start talking about Colin Hill, and I agree with you. I think he's played beautifully, but something a little bit different. I want to switch gears because it's not every day I get to talk to, especially a former player that understands the inner workings of social media the way I do. Obviously, I run it all. I'm behind it all, the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I see all the comments. I see it all. So you and I both, you, like I said, you get it, how crazy Facebook and just social media in general can be with the comments, and especially in the ebbs and flows of a game where it's like, one play you just look terrible and the next play you look good, and it can go up and down. There's good things that happen in the game. There's bad, and people can instantly react. You know what I mean? Obviously, if people don't realize, you obviously are, I think, you're an admin for the Gamecocks Uncensored group. Is that correct? You're an admin for the group?
Yep.
Okay, so you're an admin for that group on Facebook. Just talk about what that's like, kind of navigating those waters. Because, again, there was no social media when you played. So, there was no instant reaction. Right. And now seeing the way it's evolved and changed, the way media's, changed and stuff like that. What is that like, navigating those waters as a former player? Because you obviously understand the game and you understand what the guys on the field are going through. And I mean, fans have frustration. I know you probably have frustration. Everybody does at some point, but I'm sure that has to be really very interesting for you, because I've seen you comment and stuff before and make points to people. And I'm sure that has to be really interesting for you to kind of navigate that, if you will.
Yeah, it's crazy and scary in retrospect too. Number one, that turnaround for those 2 Outback Bowls. Right. If you insert social media into that same atmosphere, that may not have happened.
Right.
That may not have happened. I mean, because that was nuclear. So just like I said, I chose to go to the mall and turn my shirt inside out. But once I left the mall, I didn't have to talk to anybody about whatever. I could just go to my room or go to my parents' house. None of these conversations and clips of, somebody dropping the pass or any of that stuff, follows you. Whatsoever. And I see the comments on here, and it's just these kids these days, man, it's a whole different animal. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly from your own fan base. You know, then don't even get into the whole all the social issues on top of your fan base, on top of what you're trying to go through now. But like the way stuff is just, you know, just like people like it's so instant, man. It's just like insane. Even down to recruiting. You know, back in the day, like it was a high school sports report. So I'm like the number one receiver in South Carolina, like back in '98. But I knew that because the report came out in a newspaper like once a week, and I would turn to see if I had the most catches in the back, you know. But now, like every single athlete, you know, can have the best looking uniform, have the best looking highlight tape, you know, have the best presentation to sell him or herself, you know, or whatever. And it's like scary. It's like, man, I'm starting to really realize how blessed I was to have a scholarship. Like just like looking at social media when it's inundated full of everybody trying to get to the same place, you know, all the time. And I do think it detracts from the individual players' focus. Because I really do think they're concerned about how they're looking, you know, to these 1.3 million or, you know, 1,300 followers they're having while they're on the field instead of focusing on what's really going on. You know, just like I made reference to the, you know, 30-yard down the field flex by the safety.
Yeah.
Or that type of deal, man. So it's just insane. And in terms of mental health, like a lot of players you see will leave the game and become depressed because they like attach a lot of their self-being to who they are as a player. But I could never imagine having that self-worth attacked while I'm still a player. And then don't go to the NFL on top of that.
Yeah,
I was going to tell you,
I was going to say that I think it was Eric told me that Perry Orth actually told him that he made in-game decisions, not maybe, you know, not strictly because of it, but he said that he felt like he would make in-game decisions based off how Twitter would perceive it. And it's like, that's a starting quarterback. It's like, that's crazy to think about, really.
Yeah. I mean, because like you see how we have to speak on all the games and stuff now. Nobody's popping in VHSs. We're just talking about outcomes.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Phil was great, or this happened, or you guys won, or blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, nah, look, like everybody's a coach now. Like the way people get drilled on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram it used to be confined to the film room with the coach or the cowboy. And your position players laughing at you like, oh, look, you effed up on this one. Ha, you know, improve that in a controlled environment that was made to have you be better. But now everything's exposed instantly. And then not even to mention when we run in these groups, you got parents in there now and they're chiming in. And it's like, oh, I didn't even know you were in here. Like, you know, who let you in the group? And
I mean, I've had parents follow me. I get it. So you're like, you feel like almost in a weird spot because you're like, you almost have to kind of watch what you see because it's like that's their kid. That's literally their kid. But you brought up a great point. You can laugh about it now because one, it didn't happen, and two, you know, it's you guys won back-to-back Outback Bowls after. But it's like, can you even fathom if Twitter existed when y'all went 1-21? I mean, can you even fathom if social media was around? Because I mean, here's the thing: you guys were still playing in front of sold-out Williams-Rice. It didn't matter. 0-11,
right.
Every weekend, and now
it's all the way up and then down, all the way up and down every week.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, it's not just South Carolina. A lot of teams are having attendance issues because of the streaming, and you know, obviously, I mean, you guys are on pay-per-view. I mean, there wasn't a streaming platform. If you didn't go, you just weren't going to watch. So it's a lot different, but it's just crazy to think now that it's like, you know, they're having problems selling out stadiums, and it's just like, you know, nuts.
And you know what doesn't exist? An 1-21 meme about the Gamecocks.
That's right.
So there you go.
That's right.
Like we didn't even have a crying Jordan face. We would have been all over. Like we would have been ingrained in in social media like lore from those 2 years, like in terms of like college sports, if it was around. So we dodged it.
Yeah, dodge the bullet. Dodge the bullet. Let's move into this current day Gamecocks team because obviously, again, we're talking on a high. South Carolina just beat Auburn, 15th ranked team in the country. Get back to 500. You're 2-2. And again, obviously, you being in the Facebook group, you're somebody you follow Gamecock football very, very closely. Proud alum, all that good stuff. Talk about, you know, and I agree with you, by the way, Colin Hill. I think he's played beautifully through 4 games. He hasn't done anything flashy or crazy, but, you know, the defense has been good. But I talked about this on the show earlier this week. I attribute a lot of this team's success to the offense being that much better under Bobo and with Hill. And I think fans really undervalue just having a steady hand at quarterback, like having a guy, you know exactly what you're going to get from every week.
Right.
Again, we're not going to be must-watch TV offensively or SportsCenter top 10 or what, but he's going to keep you in every single football game. He's not going to throw you out of a game, and you're not going to show up to the ballpark wondering, well, which guy are we going to get today? You know exactly you're going to get, and like you were saying, knows the offense like the back of his hand. He knows where everybody should be. He knows exactly where the ball should go. So I think that's extremely valuable for this South Carolina football team. You look at Kevin Harris, the way they've been running the ball. Shi Smith's been playing out of his mind, and I'd like to see some other receivers develop, and you can speak more to the wide receiver position, but Shi Smith's been playing out of his mind. And defensively, I mean, what can you say? J.C. Horn just stole the show last weekend against Auburn, but you get to 2-2. You got a big one coming up this weekend because we're talking on Tuesday afternoon of LSU week. So you got a big one this weekend at LSU, but just talk about what you've seen from Gamecock football through 4 weeks, things you like, things maybe you're concerned about. And of course, we all knew coming in this year, it's a weird year, 10-game conference schedule, but it's still year 5 of Will Muschamp, and this is a results-oriented business, and people want to win now. And I think your goals, honestly, now are in front of you. You beat the 15th ranked team in the country. What can you do with that momentum? But what you've seen through 4 games from this South Carolina football team?
Well, number one, I made up my mind just to preserve my own sanity to just focus on the offense. Reason being was because that's the new thing. Like if we can have an identity at offense, then I'm fine. And that was just me being like an optimist because I didn't want to, have a heart attack like most Gamecock fans, do every single week. Because, I haven't always been the hugest fan of Muschamp, but I have been around the program in person, a few times because he lets, the former players come to practice. I've actually gone through winter workouts with them, like did them and almost died, mind you, because I'm not 20 anymore. Like the hardest thing ever. Won't do that again. But like, in terms of him being a coach outside of X's and O's, in terms of like the fundamentals, his intensity, that was great. But it's almost like a water hose that you just turn on and has no direction. Like, what's the use in focusing all that stuff on execution when we don't know we have nothing to execute? And that's what I thought about our offense last year. And finally we have an identity. And I was wrong about Kevin Harris. I thought he was just a bowling ball. Like, I thought he was like a stronger Mon Denson, who was great. But he's turned out to be so well-rounded. It's like unbelievable. Like the straightaway speed, his route running ability, his hands, his vision to go on top of the power. Because literally I thought at this point, at the same time last year or whenever, Tank went to Auburn, like I could just see ourselves being kind of jealous that we didn't have Tank. And it was an unbelievable feeling to actually watch that Auburn game and not be like lusting after the other team's running back. I didn't care. I was like, no, Kevin Harris is doing more work than Tank, and I'm just fine with it. So at this point, same point last year, like in the year before, Helinski or Bentley, and I can probably put this on the offensive coordinator, what kind of offense we were running, but we would have had 6 to 8 interceptions already, like period. Like that's just hands down. So right there, I'm already satisfied. And then with the resilience of the defense last week, because I had been completely ignoring the defense, I like what I see in Birch because he moves in space really, really, really well. Like those plays that you don't like, that doesn't, get the announcement or whatever. Like I see him when quarterbacks are coming outside the pocket. He's like, between the pitch man and the quarterback. And then he's like going sideline to sideline, hash to sideline, like at very nice speeds. And I'm seeing like the defense, getting some pressure. Like you can't just pin your ears back and just go balls to the wall on Auburn because they're going to like screen you to death or do some, some type of tricky stuff. And I like the linebacker play. 52. And what's his last name?
Enigbare. Yeah.
Enigbare. Yeah. JJ, he's cool. He's massive. He's a big dude. Yeah. But then my guy Ernest, he's a little bit faster, but both of them complement each other well. I like what I'm seeing with Dixon back there. And then Sanders, he was doing a good job on those on some hits. Just come downhill a little bit more.
Little too much flexing for your like. I just imagine.
little too much flexing. I just need RJ to work a little bit more on his coverage because I don't know what happened with that. But overall, I'm really satisfied that our team didn't get all starry-eyed about Auburn coming down or listening to all the naysayers and everything. And I think we can roll it into LSU because I'm not sure how that quarterbacks.
Yeah. It sounded like, very 50-50 at best. I mean, if he doesn't play, you've got two true freshmen that have never played an SEC game. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you as far as and the thing that I saw, my biggest takeaway from that game that I liked, it was even more so than anything statistically, was, like you said, not being starry-eyed, but the edge that our guys played with. I thought we showed up expecting to win. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that hasn't always been the case in those type of games, like you're saying.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Because, I mean, I can't even recall us beating Auburn. I was like, that's just one of those names.
First time since 1933.
Right. So those guys really came in and took it to them. And then the fact that I can actually articulate what type of offense you guys have, like if somebody were to ask me that last year, I was like,
who knows?
First of all, I feel like 3 years ago we had like a sort of RPO, but then it was like a bad RPO. Then it was like a really fast bad RPO. It just.
Well, it's like you said, it doesn't make any sense to run a RPO with a quarterback that can't R. Like, there's no R. It's just PO.
Right.
Like, I mean, it makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. But I'm just waiting for that the second or third receiver to step up. That's key.
I was going to say, talk about the receiver position. I mean, you can mention Shy because it is mind blowing to me that, and this is more credit to Shy, I guess, because he's just going out there and winning his matchups. But I've been saying, like, week after week, I'm like, okay, there's no way this team's just going to let us go out there and force feed it to Shy, and he's going, because people are like, hey, do you think he'll have over under 8 catches? And I'm like, 8 catches is a lot. That's a lot of catches. That's a lot of targets. And I'm like, there's no way these defenses, these D coordinators are just going to let us force feed it to him. And Shi Smith, to his credit, like I said, he just continues to get open. He continues to make these crazy catches or whatever. But I agree with you 110%. Man, if we had 2 or 3 other 4-star wide receivers that could help him out, this offense could be really dangerous.
Right, because, I mean, in terms of Shi being open, I mean, that's going to happen every week. Because as a route runner, like, defensive alignments, dictate how you're going to be open. Like in zone, like cover 2. Like, and when you have somebody who's a route technician that runs really good routes, but then identifies the defense and knows how they're going to be open, like, hey, and I know this guy's going to be sitting, so even though it's a cross route, I'm going to probably have to choke it down or run it shallow, or, I'm going to have to sit here, under the safety, but right above the corner. Like, football, a lot of that is cerebral. Like, that's how you can survive in the SEC, or be in the NFL and running 4.6s or have Larry Fitzgerald types, and it's crazy that we had like Brian Edwards, Shy, and like Debo, like,
Hayden Hurst on one offense.
On one offense, and didn't have the offense equipped to distribute the ball to each one of them. It's almost like they had to take turns. It's like, oh, I shine. Now I'm going. Now you shine.
Yeah.
Now I'm going.
I think
shine.
of if Mike Bobo had those weapons, gosh, oh man.
But just like I go back to when you said talked about my Vanderbilt game, and I will use Josh Vann as an example. I thought it was an awesome pickup. He was like decent, but the longer you stay on campus, and the longer you are without that spark that you had when you were that superstar that we recruited, you start to lose that taste. Because wide receiver is a big mental thing. It's really big. Like, you put one on the ground, you need one right away.
Right.
Like you need another one. Like, you got to experience that. You got to experience that success, man. So I think it's a lot of it is mental, and I think Bobo just has to continue to, through schematics, get some of these guys open and let them make plays.
For sure.
So before the season is up, we're gonna know who our 2 are.
Yeah, no, and like you said, it's a great opportunity this weekend at LSU. Like you said, chance for another upset, and I say upset because Vegas, you're a 6.5 or 7-point underdog, but I think it's kind of another one of those coin flip games. I mean, I really do. When you take a look at it, what LSU's dealing with, the way they've played defensively, your quarterback might not be playing, and somebody else phrased it perfectly. If you keep winning, they keep getting bigger. So, I mean, I'm not going to keep, on my show or whatever saying, oh, this is a big game. Yeah, if you keep winning, they're going to keep being big games. That's the luxury of it. You want to play in big games every week. That's the nice thing for sure. So I'm going to get you out of here, Willis, but I want to go back to, again, your career at South Carolina and kind of a vague question, but I want to give you the floor. If you had to pinpoint like 2 or 3 of your favorite memories from South Carolina, just moments that stand out, whether it be, times of Brad Scott, Lou Holtz running out at Willie B, or what, your successes, your touchdown catch. Like, what are some things that kind of stand out from your career at South Carolina?
I would have to say that first Outback Bowl, because I had never lost that much in my entire life, but then just to have it. No, I mean, seriously.
Right. No, I believe you. No, I believe you.
Yeah, like 3 years of hard work, because it's one of those times where you knew in that moment that I would be able to take this experience and translate it to like things in the business world or like just outside. Because even when I see other people like having struggles or getting depressed about stuff, I can always draw back from that experience and just realize like, hey, that's a piece of cake, man. Like you can overcome whatever the heck you want to, like with persistence. And then and just the first time I actually stepped on the field, just special teams against Georgia, when I told you about that TV moment, like it was like an outer body experience. Like I just kind of like froze up because I was like looking at myself on the field. Because it's just like weird. You can imagine, right?
Right.
Like because like you playing high school football on like some dirty field under the lights, but now you're just like perfect uniforms, like all the helmets shining, like the grass is perfect. It's like all like
I've arrived. You're there. Like I've kind of arrived. Like I'm here.
Right. And the field looks and when you're on the field in the game, the field looks so small. Like it looks tiny when you're on the field. The
stadium is so massive.
Right. Yeah. It's tiny. And then when you in my last memory, like just when we were doing warm-ups at Neyland at Tennessee. So, I mean, it's just packed out. It just looks like just one mass of people. But like when you're doing just like warm-up drills, catching deep balls, and if you drop one, their band plays the song.
Oh my gosh.
To embarrass you, man. So I just remember that, and then being at Florida, having before Coach Holtz took the names off the back of the jerseys, just getting harassed for 4 quarters. Because my last name's Ham. Right. And I'm like real close to the Gators.
Right.
Like, hey, Ham, you suck. Tell them to put you in the game, but I'm red shirted. And I just got like heckled for like a whole 4 hours. And it was like the best feeling ever because I'm like, yeah, I'm in Florida Stadium getting yelled at by fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, there it is, man.
Another I've arrived moment for sure. Willis, appreciate you taking the time, man. I'm glad we were able to do it. And obviously we'll be keeping up with everything this season, watching along week by week, and don't let them give you too much crap in the Facebook group, man. I know, and don't let it get to you too much. I know it can be exhausting. It can be very exhausting reading.
I know
stuff. So yeah, but
at least I gave them a shout out, so they'll be happy.
Yeah, there you go. Uncensored. Exactly, Gamecocks uncensored on Facebook. No, Willis, seriously, man, appreciate you taking the time, and definitely would love to do it again soon, man, for sure.
Thanks, brother. Take care.
Absolutely. He's Willis Ham. I'm Chris Schultz. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the episode of the Spurs Up Show.